worked again. This time. Hello. Hello. Hello, world. How is everybody doing today? Happy Wednesday, as usual. We're here today to our latest installment of reading of the Caliban and the Witch. And I say we, my lovely friend Kat is going to be actually doing the reading while I just kind of sit here and look pretty or do my best anyway. Maybe, we'll take a look at the foliage again. That always seems to, because the book is kind of heavy, but it's very important, I feel. Definitely underrated, I would say. It's not the kind of thing you hear about in the general discourse, but we should do. We should. All about the witch trials of the 17th century and the cultural and political currents leading up to them, and how it is exactly that they managed to talk an entire populace into behaving that way. And it's really terrifying because of how familiar it all sounds. So if anybody is thinking to themselves, gosh, I can't imagine how that's relevant to the present day, relevant to my life, well, you would be surprised. Anyway, so we're just waiting on lovely Cat. Hey, Belle, what up? Went live literally just as I got off work. What's up? Hey. Well, hopefully you just heard the spiel then. That's what's up. We are just chugging away at this Caliban and the Witch book because, like I say, ooh, here she is. I think it's very relevant to the present moment, actually. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
What's up?
Hey, Belle.
How you doing?
So I'm
Aw,
tired.
yeah. In a good way? In a good way, maybe? From hiking or camping and stuff?
No, yeah, I guess so. And basically, it's always a little bit you got to get back into the flow again.
I'm sure.
After being out
I'm
there.
sure. How long were you out?
Oh, just for, I think, it was like 3 days, 4 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so not like a long time, but still, yeah, I told you about my adventure.
A little bit. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so for those of you in the audience, I had to go through a forest fire, basically. The people that were living there, which isn't a lot, it's like a very, very small, like, unincorporated settlement. I wasn't too sure how if it was going to go well, as in I could actually get through with the road if it wasn't closed. Because if it closed, then I would be stuck because it's the only way back to the west coast. And I was in the central, closer to the east. So, and there's like nothing in between until you, so I would have had to go all the way back to the east, to about Tofino and Kula area, which is like really popular in the summer and expensive. Like it's fancy. So even if the road closed, doesn't guarantee me I'd even get a place to stay. If I had to stay in these places, these towns.
Yeah.
And even if I did find it, it'd be spending so much money because it's so popular, right? And fancy. So,
oh my god.
But the road was still open at that time. They were setting up closures or whatever, so you couldn't get through. But yeah, I was able to get out in time. So
That's
yeah,
good.
that was fun.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So it could have been so much worse, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it could have been so much worse. So I'm just thankful.
Right on.
Yeah, things happened the way they happened, and while I was, out camping, it was wonderful. So I'm glad I went.
Oh, good.
I hadn't been to this place before, so it was nice to, go to somewhere new.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a million of them up there.
Oh yeah. It's like well known for its camping.
Yeah.
The island. So people come from all over the world to go camping here.
That's cool. Where I'm from, people come from all over the world to go to the hospital there.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's something you want to have. That's good.
Yeah. So living there, you've got
healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not cheap, of course, but
But you're not afraid of actually going in and not, coming back out.
not so much. No, the
See, where
hospital is
I'm from,
massive.
that's not really the case, right? So
Ooh,
yeah, the hospital here has a really bad rep, and
oh,
I've worked there, so I know why.
oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
but that's a whole other bag of potato chips, so we won't go there
Yeah, I guess.
right now.
Um. Anyways, we are 6 days out from the beginning of school at last around here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm right at the tail end of summer vacation and getting ready to lose my mind because I'm so squirrely. I have cabin fever so bad. I
Oh no,
yeah.
I hate that. I hate cabin fever.
Oh yeah. It's I just been doing nothing but hanging around kicking it with the kids for 2 months. You know,
Yeah,
which is I
yeah.
love them, of course,
Well, of
but
course, but
I'm ready to
I
get back to work.
understand, but because I'm an isolator, I like to have my space by
Yeah,
myself,
right.
do
That's
my
how I
things,
work.
think my things.
That's just how
Yeah,
I work. It's always been how I work. So I'm ready to get back to work. You know.
yeah, totally. No, totally. I that's why I'm okay, I think, to be alone. I like being I like being with me. I
Mhm,
don't
yeah. No,
have
my
to
little
answer
one is
to
the opposite
anyone
of that.
and
He's a
amuse
people
anyone.
person. Right. No, and that's how I am. My little one is the opposite. He's a people person. And it's not like it's wrong or
Same with
something.
mine.
Maybe it's more normal, you know what I'm saying? Theoretically, he should be the most well adjusted of any of us. Because he's, two married parents who still care about one another. So, like, he should be the best off of any of us. So, like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't judge him. I feel like I don't want to, be like, oh, that kid's weird, but like,
There's
he's
nothing wrong with being weird. Sometimes
because
weird is
no, but
good.
he's probably right. Like
Mhm.
if I've done my job right, he should be, better off than I am emotionally. So I don't
Yeah,
want to,
right.
I don't want to give him my issues. But like on the other hand, yeah, I need to like not have to talk to anyone for a few hours.
Yeah, need space.
Why?
That's me to
Yeah,
a T. I like
yeah,
my alone time where I don't like
right,
anyone around. I like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and like
If I don't, I get bitchy.
yes,
I get a little bit cunty. I'll admit
yes.
it.
I had a dream this morning right before I woke up that I was doing nothing but going around and being like that at people. Like that was my dream this morning that I woke up from.
Nice.
So
That's funny.
a little bit of wish fulfillment, I guess.
Well, at least you can, express yourself in your dreams
Right, right,
without a
right.
fear.
And I don't actually want to be like that. I just need, it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't mean to be like, yeah, I mean, well, sometimes I mean to be cunty. Okay, I'm a lot. Yeah, sometimes
well,
I do mean it,
sometimes people
but
deserve it.
but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's
Right,
just, yeah, it's just irritable. But
right. And it's discernment, that you have to just figure out what to switch. You know.
mhm.
Maybe that's what true wisdom is, eh?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with when going camping, it's just me and him, right?
Uh-huh.
And when he was younger, I could put him to bed and then I could like read a book by the fire, right?
Oh
Now, and all
yeah.
that. Now it's not so much. So now I have to amuse him somehow for the whole day.
Oh.
But that's fine because there's lots of things that need to get done and fun stuff that need to do when you're camping.
Yeah,
So
maybe when
and
he gets a
teaching
little
him
bit
all survival
older.
tactics is fun. How to look out
Yeah.
for tracks, wild animal tracks and stuff like that. That's always good.
Oh yeah.
So
That sounds
there's always
fun.
things to be taught.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
Hello, Bentley.
Oh hi. Apparently we have two top fans
And
today. Apparently it's awarding that in order of arrival. So that's cool.
yeah,
I have no idea what that is. YouTube's rolling out a bunch of new stuff, and I just
Oh, I
mentioned how I've
know.
been busy for all summer. I have not been paying attention to that shit. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. YouTube always confuses me. Social
Mm,
media confuses me. There's always rules changing. There's always things you cannot say. People
yeah,
get weird about trigger warnings and the way you speak even.
I was literally reading a Reddit post regarding trigger warnings in fiction this morning, and I'm just like, spoilers, right? Like, I don't. Isn't that what? Okay, that's what the jacket's for, right?
Well, also, isn't that what ratings are for? If it's something
Yes,
that's like,
yeah.
you know,
That's what
13
cover
plus
art
or
is
something
for,
that's like 18 plus, like you can kind of gauge there. You should be able, if you are old enough to read something 18 plus, you should be
right?
able to handle yourself like an
Right. Well, and
adult
like,
because
okay, like, and then somebody was commenting they had legit PTSD, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay. So they were saying that trigger
but then
warnings
if
are
you start reading it and it goes to just close the book
right.
or close
Yeah.
the
No,
video or
and
you know
their thing was that content warnings are not trigger warnings, and that those are actually helpful.
yeah,
You know,
people use
that if
trigger
there's
warnings as content warnings though.
yeah, I just like the original poster was somebody who was writing. She said, I assume it's a she. I don't know. Um, is writing dark fantasy about two serial killers.
Mm,
And she said that, like people should just know kind of what they're in for based on that. I don't feel like I should need to put trigger warnings on the book.
yeah, no, that should be it should be self-explanatory with the
Yeah,
synopsis. Yeah.
right. If you pick that up and you're upset by what's in it, you're an idiot.
Like you can be upset with what in it if you're analyzing the content and you think that the message is shit. But that's
Well, right,
different than like being like, oh, I'm triggered. Oh no,
right.
what is
No,
this? I wasn't told this was like, no,
I
you
didn't expect this dark fantasy about two serial killers to be so disturbing.
yeah.
Well, that's on you, friend. Uh,
Or even just when it comes to YouTube and like the word, yeah, different words you have to like say. You can't just say, well, I'm going to say it for an example. You
oh,
can't just
oh,
say,
oh. Well,
well, I could just
where
kill
are we at
myself,
least?
or he killed himself,
Yeah.
or suicide. You have to go unalive. I think that's the weirdest. When people say unalive, I find that still jarring. I don't know
Like
why
one of
people
my
think that that's
favorite
better.
movies. This is gonna tell on myself, but one of our favorite movies when we were first getting together was Wrist Cutters. Have you ever seen that? It's
Which one?
literally a population. Wrist Cutters is the name of the movie.
No.
Oh my god,
Wow.
it's
Hardcore.
a trip.
Edgy.
No, it is. The title is fucking stupid because it's like a dark romance movie. But it is. It's a population of all these people stuck in purgatory because they, off themselves.
Off themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what they talk about. They
Interesting.
go about, when I offed, blah, 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 blah. They just
Just
use it
simply
like a
killing
verb.
yourself.
They just use oft as a verb. And so that's
Yeah.
what I'm inclined to do. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
they oft,
I
that's
just
what
think
I
that
would probably,
when I hear someone say,
yeah.
stop that. I
Oh,
won't.
no. Oh, it's
But like,
3 a.m. apparently where Bentley is. Wow. Where is it 3 a.m.? Europe?
right? Damn. Across the pond?
Way across the pond. No, that would be shit.
Australia?
We're like, I don't maybe. We're like 12 hours off from like Thailand. So,
Maybe Thailand.
well, it's
That'd be kind
only
of cool.
noon. It's only noon here. So that's 12 plus 3. That's what I'm like, what the heck? Where is that? Like, wow. Okay. Good morning. Cheers.
I don't know how interesting we are for enough for people to come at 3 a.m., but I mean, I'm glad you're
I don't
here.
know. Maybe, this dabble might be perfect. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I guess
So,
it's about to get heavy, probably, huh?
oh yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm going to be trying to read on my tablet this time
Oh,
on
okay.
an online version because when going through it, I noticed that some of the pages, when they printed it to be put online, when they scanned it,
Mhm.
some of the pages were sort of flipped over, and it's kind of hard to see. It's getting worse a little bit. So, like
Mm.
I said before, some of the words are kind of hard to see because it's a little
Okay.
smudged or something. Yeah. So
Mm.
so I decided to find an online version because it's everywhere because it's free online.
Mhm.
So this one looks much more tidy. So hopefully
Okay, cool.
I can actually pronounce more things and know what the words are supposed to be.
Just take that extra layer out. Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, right. And it's going to be a little bit longer just so that it fits nicely.
You see the dog
So,
licking his ass behind me? Isn't that fun?
oh,
Drago,
that's lovely.
Drago. He's cute, but
Banana show.
yeah, he's just another neighborhood dog, so of course we're friends.
Yeah, so
Hey,
we're going to
Drago.
be getting to a lot of the images too from the period of
Oh,
the
okay.
witch burnings, which is going to be
Are
cool.
we gonna get to
We
see the
might
cat
even see
people
some
today?
cat people. Yeah, we might get to see some cat people.
Yes.
So buckle up.
All right. We're gonna get to put the cat people in context, which is gonna be sort of a bummer, but not really because
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how
uh,
in depth we're going to get to the cat people, so
well,
it
we
still
have to
might,
go.
lend its aura of mystery.
Yeah,
I
right.
just love that. I just love that. I think that's
The,
just the best.
I hope that you will go back over what it is you love so much about it when we get there.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, I'm just trying to get my stupid mic
Okay.
off of this stupid
And
elastic.
reminder for
Okay.
anybody watching at home, I'm gonna be muted while she is reading, unless
Talking,
if
yeah,
they just
reading.
kind of put it on the leaves because I found that very like a nice contrast, you know.
What was it? What?
I had it flipped around so we were looking at the bush instead of my face last
Oh,
time. I
oh,
liked that.
okay.
So that,
Yeah.
there's some lovely greenery to look at while, this dreadful
You,
stuff is going
you
on.
don't want to look at my ugly mug. That's how I feel. That's why I'm never on camera.
Oh my God. Well, and like this one, I don't know. I'm afraid, like every time we go at this, I'm afraid there's going to be something that like makes me really upset, like,
Yeah.
oh, because this is upsetting material. So,
Yeah. For me, I'm like, I am just joking. Retractable.
oh yeah,
Like, my face is not, you can't find it on the internet. Like, I think
which
people,
is an
I know
accomplishment these
people think
days.
it's weird, but I swear to God, even like 15 years ago, people would have been like sort of almost like weirded out by how much we just put ourselves out there for everyone and anyone, especially like the state, for them to just like have your like identity out there.
I don't disagree.
So, and I know it's normalized now, but I keep thinking about the frog in the boiling pot of water.
Oh, you have your privacy, you have your lines. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah. So I just know that from past experience with other people, it's like, why do you care so much about not showing your face? Why? I'm like, well, I mean, why do you think that it's,
All right. Can I
fine?
I, I actually come from like a theater background and like wanted to get into show business, so it's kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But I understand the idea of your face being like a big whopping deal and its presence on camera or not being a big
Well,
whopping
especially if
deal.
you want to be going out there, boots on ground, doing things
Mhm. Right,
for certain causes. Like, it's good to not be on like your mug all over the
right,
fucking world on the internet.
right. You have your
Right.
reasons.
So,
I respect that.
yeah.
I'm nobody, so
I
I'm
didn't
far less
say
worried
that.
about it.
Okay, I'm gonna sit up here.
Like even when
I'm
I've
just
tried
gonna
to
have
be
a quick.
somebody by having a YouTube channel, I'm still nobody. Well,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I,
it's one thing to have a YouTube channel, but like just like for me, I think I don't know. I prefer just to not have my face everywhere. Because another thing
Yeah.
that's good for, and I've done this
Hmm.
before, is I've
Hmm.
gone into certain spaces that don't particularly like turfs. You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
you can
yeah.
actually get an idea by being a little sneaky.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Incognito. No, I support everything that you
Yeah,
do. You know, I support everything that you do. I
yeah, no, I
don't,
know.
and I certainly would never
I'm
pressure
just for
you.
the wider audience. Just it's a discussion
Yeah, okay,
while I get set up here.
okay. I just,
But yeah, I think it's a great idea because to yeah, there's many upsides to
hmm,
not showing your mug out there
right on.
because like I know that yeah, like you can get into some spaces you can you know hear some things if you want
Somebody
to
has
go
to do
like
it. Yeah,
yeah, right, somebody has to, can't do that if everyone's face is online.
right? Like, if you're well known for something, especially. Oh my
Right,
God, I was shut out so effectively. It was so amazing from
what,
everything. So yeah, because I came out, a full turf flag flying and everything like 5, 6 years ago.
oh yeah,
Yeah, the amount of shut out from everything was really
yeah,
amazing.
like I had people that I had worked with previously that um went because I've never been quiet about my turfiness in the
Hmm.
spaces I was in,
Hmm.
but what's it's and like I was around before it was a trend, let's just say.
Right,
So
right.
then when I kept my turfiness and my opinions out there, it got to a point where like yeah, it just completely turned, right? And like I
Yep.
had a couple of them, like a couple of people be like, I don't get it. You're so good with everything else, like that you like, that you think or that that you stand for. I'm like, yeah, so that should tell you something. Like,
Yeah. No. No.
I
And
mean,
like
and maybe
apparently
I'm wrong,
Naomi Wolf.
but then the thing is not to shut someone like me out. The thing would be to discuss, debate, and have an
Right.
open dialogue. But that was completely off the list for some reason,
And you
and
have to
really,
be
like, it really
apparently
did
really
so
just
much damage to like the whole left movement. Like now people think of
yeah.
leftists as these liberals that are fucking the woke liberals, whatever, and they're
Yeah.
going more right. And I'm just like, well, great, that's great. Look
Right.
at what you've done.
Right,
Look what you
exactly.
fucking
Exactly.
done.
They've alienated a bunch of people who should be on their side.
Exactly.
And apparently you have to be
And
like
who
really
are now easily,
iconoclastic
and
and just
people
a
who are
strong
easily
critical
led into
thinker.
like
I
the
don't
grip
know.
to the right.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. They've been waiting for them with open arms and it's just so been so
right?
demoralizing to watch that happen. Yeah.
Well, this sort of state propaganda is made to like shepherd you into either, political party or whatever, like the liberal sort of
Yeah.
ideologies and the right wing conservative ideologies, right? It's supposed to
Yeah.
like, so you box you in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's horrible what
And
they've done to
watching
the image
watching all of
because
these
people
supposedly
associate socialism and all of these different leftist movements as liberal wokeness.
yeah.
They do. They like, and they don't. Yeah. So it just,
Right
of
now,
course, they are
I saw
partly
this
to blame
coming years
themselves.
ago. I was like, oh, great. So all this left stuff is going to get flushed down the toilet with trans
Yeah.
ideology, essentially, when it finally collapses. Great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Which means
Yeah.
there's a
Thanks. That's
big
good.
right
Lovely.
wing
Nice.
swing coming, which is just
Yeah.
fucking great. Like, again, I
Yeah.
saw all this coming like 8 years ago. I was just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I liked your channel because you still were like, I'm not, so like critiquing the right wing and not just be like, oh, they agree with me on this. We must be allies. It's like, no,
No.
no,
Like, what? Like,
tone me
kind of lame
down,
brain logic is that? I don't under.
right?
Do you
It's
remember
turning
who these
brainwash shit.
people are?
Like you need to really disassociate, like, but because what it is, it's guilt by association, but you're doing it
See,
yourself.
the more I think on it,
You're
the
not
more I
looking at
wonder if it
issues.
isn't latent racism. I hate to say it, but I wonder if it isn't latent
Yeah,
racism. Because I do not give a shit what those people say about women's issues, quite frankly, because they are the party of Strom Thurmond.
yeah,
Hello? Hello? That guy only died like 10 years ago, or no, it's been like 20. But still, like, there's still that party. There's still those people. You know what I mean? Like, you know who Strom Thurmond was?
Well, yeah, this is what I mean. And
Okay.
then like
I mean, you're
okay,
not American, so
recent.
maybe you don't know who Strom Thurmond was. I don't know. For anybody who doesn't know, he was like
I,
did one of the few filibusters of the middle of the 20th century because for segregation in schools.
mhm,
Yeah, he stayed like on Senate floor and talked for 24 hours or some shit for segregation in schools.
mhm, yeah,
That was his claim to fame,
yeah.
and he owned it too. He was not ashamed of this
Hmm.
ever. He never did a heel turn and like became
Well,
reasonable. No.
for an example, I really stopped talking to some of the people here. I've had to distance myself because like they've gone too far to like where now what's even just like not calling out things when someone
What
says,
Caliban means? Oh, somebody's trying to
well,
figure
oh
out
no,
what
what I
Caliban means. Sorry.
one woman, when I went to that courthouse with that thing,
Oh, yeah.
the court with the punching, yeah. One
Caliban
lady
is a
there,
reference to Shakespeare. Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. No, one lady there started talking to another lady who agreed with her, by the way, white genocide in South Africa as being a thing. I'm like, what? I'm like, and they got really offended when I spoke. So the other people, the other women there didn't really say anything, but I did. I'm like, why are you letting this slide? That's fucked up.
Yeah. Oh, oh, oh.
White people in South Africa are not being oppressed. They're the owners of all pretty much the land there. It's the segregation's not in law, but it's still economic segregation. What are
Well,
you
look, we know
talking
where that
like?
came
There's
from.
there's not a genocide of white people in South Africa. They're not genociding them. Like that's so offensive. And I mean, okay, you know how they got the Trump got the executive order to bring them in. He brought them in private jet, first class, and there was like what at total 30, like a few families with 30 people all together. If there was a genocide, don't you think people would be clamoring to get in and leave? Not just 30 people. And
I,
most of those people that came want to go back now because they can't find jobs. I'm serious.
I didn't look too
Like,
much into that because it was something that Trump and Elon agreed on, so it had to be nonsense.
well, of course, Elon agreed with it. He said white South African.
All right. That's what I was saying. Like, we know where that came from. The U.S. has outdone South Africa regarding racist and economic
Right?
segregation decades
Just
ago.
stop. Like the only
Yeah, but
way that you could believe in such obvious fucking shit, like bullshit, is I'm sorry, just flat out racism. I don't know any other way you could. There's no evidence to support that narrative. All the evidence to go against it. So what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
and then they got offended. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, they're like, but I'm
Nope.
not racist. Yes, you are. I don't know what else to tell you.
No, Bell
But
has it
if you
right.
believe that,
Collaborating with
there's
the
no
right.
logical explanation.
I did a paper in school about the Great Witch Hunt back in 1981. Oh, hi, Scott. I haven't seen you in a while. Caliban is,
Oh wow. Yeah.
yeah.
I remember you
Um,
from the chats.
yeah. It's been a while. How you doing? Sorry. Trying to figure out what Caliban means. He's the one who's trying to figure out what Caliban means. And Bell
Oh,
says
Caliban
collaborating with the
is
right.
a Shakespearean it's from a Shakespearean play.
Right.
Um shit, what's it?
But
The
what we're
Tempest, is
reading is
it?
a. You know what? You'd probably dig this. It's a shoot. What's the word? An academic work about the 17th century witch trials. You probably dig this. And
Yeah.
Bell says collaborating with the right because you agree with them on trans issues makes them seem more legitimate in general, which is what I have been saying all along. So then when they come for abortion or divorce, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Those people are not
These are
your
not your
friends.
friends.
No.
And it just shows a lack of the critical thinking skills I thought more of the majority of people had, because you
Like I
don't
said,
just agree with something because they agree with you on another thing. As nothing, that's what I mean by associations. You're
Yeah.
associating. You're just going to associate. Well, he was right on this, so he must be right on everything. No, you shouldn't think about who's saying it. You should think about the question or what's being told, like, and what's the real answer. It has nothing to do with who's saying it. Like that's how
Yeah.
like like that you would think would be like the response I thought would be like normal, but I guess it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, and
I
this is
just
how
learned yesterday. Apparently, Naomi Wolf is a Trumper now, so that's fun.
Naomi Wolf. Oh yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, she was a Hillary like Democrat sort of shill,
I don't really
unfortunately. But I
know
like her book. I
anything.
do like her book,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
but
really
I
know that
don't
much
like her
about
politics.
her. I don't really know that much about her. It's just like, okay, so now older, big name feminists are MAGA now. That's fine.
Well, the reason why I'm not surprised is because she was very much a liberal when it comes to every
Mm,
other like politic, and a lot of liberals and the difference between conservative and liberals pretty much is just the aesthetic, particularly when it comes to America or any other Western countries. It's the aesthetic. It's the aesthetic. It doesn't have different goals. It just has a
I
different way to
know.
get to those goals.
I
So it's just
know.
basically
And we're
aesthetic.
going to find that out over the next 10 years in this country, I think. It's going to
Hmm.
be a fun ride.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes,
But
I
yeah, no,
heard
I
that
think
it was
Caliban
Naomi Wolf.
refers to the
Mm.
Shakespearean play The Tempest.
Mm. She said it at the beginning, 2 months
Yeah.
ago or whenever, 3 months ago, whenever that was. Oh, Scott, honey, we've been reading this for a while, so we're pretty deep into it at this point. It's heavy stuff, though, and I feel it's really relevant. It's shockingly relevant for being it happened 400 years ago.
You
All
could
the
see the
social
same sort of
manipulation. It's
you
the
could see
social
the same sort of
manipulation,
things coming back around in the mentalities that it brings out in people. Yeah.
right? And that's really scary because we all know how that went.
Yeah. Of course, one of my working theories is because there's a new round of like, because this happened at a time with the Atlantic slave trade and like the New World, which we'll be getting into soon. And so there was a new round of like capitalism having to evolve, right? And expand. Well, now
Right?
we are to a point where it's doing the same thing, but expanding, and there's nowhere else to physically expand. So it's expanding in different ways.
Yeah.
Some people like to refer to it as like the fourth industrial revolution or whatever, but it's just capitalism shifting to keep itself alive, basically. And that include part of that includes the reproduction of the workforce, labor, or the society at large, which is what female bodies do. And so you need to really own and like try to exploit and pick apart
Which,
and sell off, which is what they're
right?
doing with reproductive tech, which is what I think the trans narrative is about, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, right. And there's a
So,
couple of them out there that have admitted that.
oh yeah, well, especially the people that fund these fucking like
Right. That's one of
organizations,
the big ones.
like Martine Rothblatt and stuff, and
Right.
Spritzker.
Like to
Yeah.
straight up say shit like that. Yeah. Like they're so high on their own farts. But anyway, I think
I like that. Yeah, they are. They really are.
really are. And from my perspective, it's like more about it's patriarchy. It's a patriarchal mindset, and that's why capitalism. That's where capitalism springs from. That
Yeah.
way of
Oh yeah.
valuing things. That to
Yeah.
me is the deeper seated issue that's going on, and that's why it's so gendered, if you will. Like
Yeah. It's like
why
well,
why
like
is capitalism so patriarchal? Like that seems odd. Like you wouldn't necessarily need to.
like the whole hierarchy of the family, like traditional family, is a
Mhm.
microcosm of like how capitalism exploits. Like it's a
Oh,
pyramid scheme, right?
YouTube's algorithm actually waved my live feed to Scott. Oh, that's awesome.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Oh, what was I saying?
Shit.
Oh
I was.
yeah, okay. The patriarchal family
Mhm.
of ownership is a microcosm. The traditional one is a microcosm of capitalism. and
Right.
how it runs society, right? It's a pyramid scheme
Right.
where you got one authoritarian on top and and then below keeping it up, right? Which is the exploitation of women and children.
Yeah.
So
No, but I mean, like,
very a lot of
hypothetically,
similarity. Hmm?
economically, hypothetically, from an economic perspective, why is it so gendered? That seems like unnecessary, right?
Because
Is
women
it?
do unpaid labor.
No, I know,
Oh,
I
okay.
know, but not coming at it from the angle of the feminism that we already are, understand that. But like, if you wanted to just come at it like generically from like a regular average layman's perspective, it shouldn't need to be so gendered, right? And they kind of behave as if it shouldn't need to be, and yet it's like so impossible to get away from because, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's
Aha.
where it springs from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Like
it's not
capitalism is a
just
symptom of patriarchy, and that I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
yeah.
That's how
Well,
I'm
the thing is,
hearing
when it
all of
comes to
this.
patriarchy, it actually is, it's older than capitalism. And
Right.
doesn't always evolve out of capitalism. It does evolve out of different societies,
Yeah.
different civilizations, particularly ones that were empires. And that's because all empires have the same sort of structure when it comes to the socio-political aspect, right? And
Mhm.
women were one of the first, not fully, but one of the first sort of class sort of socio structures that was implemented for control and exploitation way
Yeah.
before, like, because you need to control female reproduction before you even be able to have enough ability to have workers exploit the land to and then exploit them so you can hoard the resources. So you need to be able to control that population to do that for you. That includes controlling reproduction. So it's one of the
Mhm.
first basis that comes out of empire is the exploitation of women for
Right.
resource. Yeah,
And so I just,
yeah. So it does go further. It's older.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of our problems are going to come down to the breakdown of like that most human relationship, you know?
Well, yeah, because so
Uh,
many people I've noticed don't even recognize it.
mhm.
Like you'll have the feminists who are just bonkers going over to the grifting right, but then you have other leftist spaces that don't like comprehend that like basic main oppressive, you know,
Yeah.
um, dynamic. And it's
No, and
like,
I
for
think it's
fuck's
like
sake,
what you
it's
were
not that
saying.
hard. It's really not that hard to like
It's a,
comprehend. So the only thing I
yeah.
can think of is that you like that when it comes to the leftist spaces. You want to still keep that because you get something out of it,
Right.
especially the men. They get
Oh,
something out of
yeah.
it. So they don't want to question that part. But that sucks because it's so naturalized that they don't, some of them, I don't think even recognize that that's what they're
No.
doing.
No, no. I saw something really funny about how masculinity turns men into NPCs
NPCs?
and non-player characters where they're just following a
Oh,
script.
yeah. Like what NPCs are. You and
Yeah,
your
sorry.
lingo.
Me? Oh, it's a gaming term, and I'm not even a gamer. I just know a lot of
Yeah,
them.
I'm not a gamer, so I have no clue what the fuck you were talking about.
Well, you know, when
I
you're
know I've heard
going
of it.
along in a game and you run into a side character who's supposed to tell you something,
Oh,
and they just have a limited script that they will just say over and over again because that's all they do.
yeah,
Yeah,
the script.
that. Yes. That masculinity turns men into that, basically. I thought that was funny,
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, well, basically, yeah, because they don't question it, they just repeat it. So,
right? And you can predict how they're going to behave. Like,
oh, yeah,
yeah.
which just
Sad.
sucks.
Yeah.
To put out not all men, Scott.
Say that again? You're
Just
breaking up.
oh, Sorry, I said just to put it out there, we're not talking about all men just because, or I think one viewer is Scott.
Right, yeah. Present company accepted, obviously, because they're cool. They're here.
Right? Yeah, no.
So
Mm. Right, I
no,
should
and
get
if
this set up.
all men were completely hopeless, then the human project would be like hopeless.
Completely
You
hopeless.
know? Yeah.
No.
Hi,
I
doggy.
mean,
Look, he came to see me. Oh, are you going away? You don't want rubs?
yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna feel hopeless later on. I've got uh something to watch, an interview with Whitney Webb talking about here again. Interview
Oh
that
no.
I'm gonna be watching after this. And so
Oh
I'm
my
gonna,
God.
I don't know how much hope I'm gonna have left after hearing that. Because Whitney
Oh my
Webb's really
God.
good,
Oh
but it's
yeah.
scary.
Yeah. I mm, mm. I have to be able to like continue to live. So you know, shit.
Oh yes, good.
Oh,
I'm just reading Scott's comment. Sorry.
that's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's what the
And
first
yes,
part of
good
the book has
doggy.
been about.
Hmm?
Yeah, as far as the late medieval period and all that, that's what the first part of the book's been about. So, yeah.
And yeah, it goes over that kind of period. So let's. Oh, we were talking so much. My tablet turned off. Hold on.
It's only been 40 minutes, and you know, what's a good
Yeah, maybe we should get this show on the
yeah,
road.
what's a good
Let me
preamble? You know, I
test.
don't know. You know what?
Well,
With
it's okay to have a nice preamble because sometimes there's things out there that just you need to let out.
yeah, and you know what? With the number of bullshit podcasts there are out there, come on.
Right?
I feel like we
There's
should
a
be able to
lot.
talk about whatever we want.
That's right. I'm just going to put this together. All right, so I won't be able to hear anyone,
You're right.
or I guess you.
Um, right. I'm gonna be muted while she's reading, and then we'll have discussion after.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna, before I do that, put that in. I'm just gonna just put this out here. So today
You
we're
could
gonna
get
do.
thunderstorms this afternoon. That's cool. We might too. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be
It's
kind of nice. That'd be ambient with it.
nice to have a
So
break
we got.
from. It's been very hot here. It's nice today.
Yeah. Well,
So,
actually, we just had pouring rain to last night
mm,
into right now, actually. So that's good because like forest fires are going crazy now.
mm.
So, chapter 4, The Great Witch Hunt in Europe, part 2. We're going to go over witch hunting, women hunting, and the accumulation of labor, witch hunting and male supremacy, the taming of women, the witch hunt and the capitalist rationalization of sexuality, the witch hunt and the new and witch, the heretic. Oh, sorry, the witch, the healer, and the birth of modern science. So we.
That sounds like a lot. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a little bit. Yeah.
Is this the long one you were talking about? Okay. 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 So I
Whoa,
begin.
I just completely cut out.
What happened?
I don't know. Everything went black for a sec.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I'm back now. Okay.
Okay. So knock on wood, everybody.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Yeah, my nails.
Yeah. Well, that's the part of you that's on camera, so it's extra shiny.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have to look nice. That is fancy. Okay, let's see. Yeah. All right, now I'm just gonna put in. All right, witch hunting. Oh, is this not working? Hold on. Here, say something so I can see if I can hear you.
Something to see if you can hear me.
Okay, good. Thank you. Can you hear
Okay.
me? Then I guess yes. Sorry, my phone was being weird. All right.
She has a lovely voice too. I know, right? She's been so
Oh,
wonderful all summer doing all this reading while I take a big break. It's been very nice.
all right. Now,
And I think
which
I'm going to put
hunting
you guys
women?
facing this lovely plant. So, oh, are you starting? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
it's
Okay,
okay.
here we go.
Okay. All right. Witch hunting, women hunting, and the accumulation of labor. The most important difference between heresy and witchcraft is that witchcraft was considered a female crime. This was especially true at the peak of the persecution in the period between 1550 and 1650. In an earlier phase, men had represented up to 40% of the accused, and a smaller number continued to be prosecuted later, mostly drawn from the ranks of the vagabonds, beggars, itinerant laborers, as well as the gypsies and lower class priests. By the 16th century, moreover, the charge of devil worship had become a common theme in political and religious struggle. There was hardly a bishop or a politician who, in the heat of the moment, was not accused of being a witch. Protestants accused Catholics, especially the Pope, of serving the devil. Luther himself was accused of magic, and so were John Knox in Scotland, Jean Bodin in France, and many others. Jews, too, were ritually accused of worshipping the devil, often being portrayed with horns and claws. But the outstanding fact is that more than 80% of those who were tried and executed in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries for the crime of witchcraft were women. In fact, more women were persecuted for witchcraft in this period than for any other crime, except significantly infanticide. Infanticide. That the witch was a woman was also stressed by the demonologists, who rejoiced that God had spared men from such a scourge. As Sigrid Bronner in 1995 has noted, the arguments used to justify this phenomenon changed. While authors of the Malleus Maleficarum explained that women were more prone to witchcraft because of their insatiable lust. Martin Luther and humanist writers stressed women's moral and mental weakness as the origin of this perversion, but all singled out women as evil beings. A further difference between the persecutions of the heretics and that of the witches is that, in the latter, the charges of sexual perversion and infanticide had a central role, being accompanied by the virtual demonization of contraceptive practices. The association between contraception, abortion, and witchcraft first appeared in the Bull of Innocent, published in 1484, which complained that, quote, by their incantations, spells, conjurations, and other accursed superstitions, and horrid charms, enormities, and offenses, witches destroy the offspring of women. They hinder men from generating and women from conceiving. Hence, neither husbands with their wives nor wives with their husbands can perform their sexual acts. End quote. From then on, reproductive crimes featured prominently in the trials. By the 17th century, witches were accused of conspiring to destroy the generative power of humans and animals, of procuring abortions, and of belonging to an infanticidal sect devoted to killing children or offering them to the devil. In the popular imagination as well, the witch came to be associated with a lecherous old woman, hostile to new life, who fed upon infant flesh or used children's bodies to make her magical potions, a stereotype later popularized by children's books. Why such a why such a change in the trajectory from heresy to witchcraft? Why, in other words, in the course of a century did the heretic become a woman? And why was religious and social transgression refocused as predominantly a reproductive crime? In the 1920s, the English anthropologist Margaret Murray in The Witch Cult in Western Europe, published in 1921, proposed an explanation that has recently been revived by ecofeminists and practitioners of Wicca. Murray argued that witchcraft was an ancient matrifocal religion to which the Inquisition turned its attention after the defeat of heresy, spurred by a new fear of doctrinal deviation. In other words, the women whom demonologists persecuted as witches were, according to this theory, practitioners of ancient fertility cults aiming to procreate birth and reproduction, cults that had existed in the Mediterranean areas for thousands of years, but which the church opposed as pagan rites and a challenge to its power. The presence of midwives among the accused, the role that women played in the Middle Ages as community healers, the fact that until the 16th century, childbirth was considered a female mystery, all of these factors had been cited in support of this view. But this hypothesis cannot explain the timing of the witch hunts, nor tell us why these fertility cults became so abominable in the eyes of the authorities as to call for the extermination of the women practicing the old religion. A different explanation is that the prominence of reproductive crimes in the witch trials was a consequence of the high infant mortality rates that were typical in the 16th and 17th centuries due to the growth of poverty and malnutrition. Witches, it is argued, were blamed for the fact that so many children died so suddenly, died shortly after birth, or were vulnerable to a broad array of ailments. But this explanation, too, does not go far enough. It does not account for the fact that women labeled as witches were also accused of preventing conception, and it fails to place the witch hunt in the context of 16th century economic and institutional policy. Thus, it misses the significant connection between the attack on witches and the development of a new concern among European statists and economists with the question of reproduction and population size, the rubric under which the question of the size of the workforce was discussed at the time. As we have seen earlier, the labor question became especially urgent in the 17th century when population in Europe began again to decline, raising the spectra of a demographic collapse, similar to that which had occurred in the American colonies in the decades after the conquest. Against this background, it seemed plausible that the witch hunt was, at least in part, an attempt to criminalize birth control and place the female body, the uterus, at the service of population increase and the production and accumulation of labor power. This is a hypothesis. What is certain is that the witch hunt was promoted by a political class that was preoccupied with population decline and motivated by the conviction that a large population is the wealth of the nation. The fact that the 16th and 17th centuries were the heyday of mercantilism and saw the beginning of a demographic recording of births, deaths, and marriages, of census taken, and the formalization of demography itself as the first state science is a clear proof of the strategic importance that controlling population movements was acquiring in the political circles that instigated the witch hunts. We also know that many witches were midwives or wise women, traditionally the depository of women's reproductive knowledge and control. The Malleus dedicated an entire chapter to them, arguing that they were worse than any other woman since they helped the mother destroy the fruit of her womb, a conspiracy made easier, they charged, by the exclusion of men from the rooms where women gave birth. Observing that there was not a hut that did not board a midwife, the authors recommended that no woman should be allowed to practice this art unless she first demonstrated to have been a good Catholic. This recommendation did not go unheard. As we have seen, midwives were either recruited to police women to check, for instance, that they did not hide their pregnancies or deliver children out of wedlock, or were marginalized. Both in France and England, starting from the end of the 16th century, few women were allowed to practice obstetrics, an activity that, until that time, had been their inviolable mystery. Then, by the beginning of the 17th century, the first male midwives began to appear, and within a century has become almost entirely state control. According to Alice Clark, quote, the continuous process by which women were supplemented by men in the profession is one example of the way in which they were excluded from all branches of professional work through being denied the opportunity of obtaining an adequate professional training, end quote. By interpreting the social decline of the midwife as a case of female deprofessionalization misses its significance. There is convincing evidence, in fact, that midwives were marginalized because they were not trusted and because their exclusion from the profession undermined women's control over reproduction. Just as the enclosures expropriated the peasantry from the communal land, so the witch hunt expropriated women from their bodies, which were thus liberated, quote unquote, from an impediment preventing them to function as machines for the production of labor. For the threat of the stake erected more formidable barriers around women's bodies than were ever erected by the fencing off of the commons. We can, in fact, imagine that what effect it had on women to see their neighbors, friends, and relatives being burned at the stake, and realize that any contraceptive initiative on their side might be construed as the product of a demonic perversion. Seeking to understand what the women hunted as witches and the other women in their community must have thought, felt, and concluded from this horrendous attack waged upon them, looking, in other words, at the persecution from within, as Anne L. Barstow has done in her Witch Craze book, published in 1994, also enables us to avoid speculating on the intentions of persecutors. I think it's supposed to be they. It says die. Okay, whatever. And concentrate instead on the effects of the witch hunt on the social position of women. From this viewpoint, or from this point of view, there can be no doubt that the witch hunt destroyed the methods that women had used to control procreation. By indicting them as diabolical devices and institutionalized the state's control over the female body, the precondition for its subordination to the reproduction of labor power. But the witch was not only the midwife, the woman who avoided maternity, or the beggar who eked out a living by stealing some wood or butter from her neighbors. She was also the loose, promiscuous woman, the prostitute or adulteress, and generally the woman who exercised her sexuality outside the bonds of marriage and procreation. Thus, in the witchcraft trials, ill repute was evidence of guilt. The witch was also the rebel woman who talked back, argued, swore, and did not cry under torture. Rebel here refers not necessarily to any specific subversive activity in which women might be involved. Rather, it describes the female personality that had developed, especially among the peasantry, in the course of the struggle against feudal power, when women had been in the forefront of the heretical movements, often organizing in female associations, posing a growing challenge to the male authority and the church. Descriptions of witches remind us of women as they were represented in the medieval morality plays, and the ready to take initiatives as aggressive and lusty as men, wearing male clothes or proudly riding on their husbands' backs holding a whip. Certainly, among those indicted here, there were women suspected of specific crimes. One was accused of poisoning her husband, another of causing the death of her employer, another again of having prostituted her daughter. But it was not only the deviant woman, but the woman as such, particularly the woman of the lower classes, that was put on trial. A woman who generated so much fear that in her case, the relation between education and punishment was turned upside down. Joan Bodin declared, quote, "We must spread terror among some by punishing many," end quote. And indeed, in some villages, few were spared. Oh, there we go. Also, the sexual sadism displayed by the torturers to which the accused were subjected reveals a misogyny that has no parallel in history and cannot be accounted for on the basis of any specific crime. According to the standard procedure, the accused were stripped naked and completely shaved. It was argued that the devil hid among their hair. Then they were pricked with long needles all over their bodies, including their vaginas, and searched for the mark with which the devil presumably branded his creature, just as the masters in England did with runaway slaves. Often they were raped. It was investigated whether or not they were virgins, a sign of innocence, And if they did not confess, they were submitted to even more atrocious ordeals. Their limbs were torn, they were seated on iron chairs under which fires were lit, their bones were crushed, and when they were hung or burnt, care was taken so that the lesson to be drawn from their end would not go unheeded. The execution was an important public event which all the members of the community had to attend, including the children of the witches, especially their daughters, who, in some cases, would be whipped in front of the stake on which they could see their mother burning alive. The witch hunt, then, was a war against women. It was a concerted attempt to degrade them, demonize them, and destroy their social power. At the same time, it was in the torture chambers and on the stakes on which the witches perished that the bourgeois ideals of womanhood and domesticity were forged. In this case, too, the witch hunt amplified contemporary social trends. There is, in fact, an unmistakable continuity between the practices targeted by the witch hunt and those banned by the new legislation that in the same years was introduced to regulate family life, gender, and property relations. Across Western Europe, as the witch hunt was progressing, laws were passed that punished the adulteress with death, in England and Scotland by the stake, as in the case of high treason. At the same time, prostitution was outlawed, and so was birth out of wedlock, while in fact infanticide was made a capital crime. Simultaneously, female friendships became an object of suspicion, denounced from the pulpit as subversive of the alliance between husband and wife, just as women to women relations were demonized by the persecutors of the witches who forced them to denounce each other as accomplices in crime. It was also in this period that the word gossip, which in the Middle Ages had meant friend, changed its meaning, acquiring a derogatory connotation, a further sign of the degree to which the power of women and communal ties were undermined. Also, at the ideological level, there is a close correspondence between the degraded image of women forged by the demonologists and the image of femininity constructed by the contemporary debates on the quote unquote nature of the sexes, end quote, which canonized a stereotypical woman, weak in body and mind, and biologically prone to evil, that effectively served to justify male control over women and the new patriarchal order. So, next subchapter is witch hunting and male supremacy, the taming of women. The sexual politics of the witch hunt is revealed by the relation between the witch and the devil, which is one of the novelties introduced by the 16th and 17th century trials. The Great Witch Hunt marked a change in the image of the devil compared with that to be found in the medieval lives of the saints or in the books of Renaissance magicians. In the former, the devil was portrayed as an evil being, but one who had little power. A sprinkling of holy water and a few holy words were usually sufficient to defeat his schemes. His image was that of an unsuccessful ill-doer who, far from inspiring horror, was created with some virtues. The medieval devil was a logician, competent in legal matters, sometimes represented in the act of defending his case in front of a court of law. He also was a skillful worker who could be used to dig mines or build city walls, although he was routinely cheated when the time came for his recompense. Also, the Renaissance view of the relationship between the devil and the magician always portrayed the devil as a subordinate being called to task, willing or not, like a servant, and made to perform according to his master's will. The witch hunt reversed the power relation between the devil and the witch. It was the woman now who was the servant, the slave, the succubus in body and soul, while the devil functioned as her owner and master, pimp, and husband all in one. It was the devil, for instance, who approached the intended witch. She rarely conjured him up. After revealing himself to her, he would ask her to become his servant, and what would follow then would be a classic example of master-slave or husband-wife relation. He stamped her with his mark, had sexual intercourse with her, and in some instances he even changed her name. Moreover, in a clear prefiguration of women's matrimonial destiny, the witch hunt introduced one single devil in the place of the multitude of devils to be found in the medieval and Renaissance world, and a masculine devil at that. in contrast with the female figures, whose cults were spread among women in the Middle Ages, in both the Mediterranean and Teutonic regions. How preoccupied were the witch hunters with the affirmation of male supremacy can be seen from the fact that, even when in revolt against human and divine law, women had to be portrayed as subservient to a man, and the culmination of their rebellion, the famous pact with the devil, had to be represented as a perverted marriage contract. The marital analogy was carried so far that the witches would confess that they, quote, did not dare to disobey the devil, unquote, or more curiously, that they did not find any pleasure in their copulations with him, a contradiction with respect to the ideology of the witch hunt, which derived witchcraft from women's insatiable lust. Not only did the witch hunt sanctify male supremacy, it also instigated men to fear women and even to look at them as the destroyers of the male sex. Women, the authors of the Malleus Maleficarum, preached are lovely to look at, but contaminating to the touch. They attract men, but only to undermine them. They do everything to please them, but the pleasure they give is more bitter than death, for their vices cost men the loss of their souls and perhaps their sexual organs. A witch presumably could castrate men or make them impotent, either by freezing their generative forces or causing their penis to come out and draw back as she wished. Some stole male penises, which they hid in great numbers in bird nests or boxes, until under duress they were forced to return them to their owners. But who were these witches who castrated men or made them impotent? Potentially every woman. In a village or small town of a few thousand people, where at the peak of the witch hunt dozens of women were burned in the space of a few years or even a few weeks, no man could feel safe and be sure that he did not live with a witch. Many must have been terrified upon hearing that at night some women left the marriage bed to travel to the Sabbath, fooling their sleeping husbands by putting a stick next to them, or hearing that women had the power to make their penises disappear, like the witch mentioned in the Malleus, who had stored dozens in a tree. That this propaganda successfully divided women from men is suggested by the fact that despite individual attempts by sons, husbands, or fathers to save their female relatives from the stake, with one exception, we have no record of any male organizations opposing the persecution. The exception is the case of the fishermen of the Basque region, where the French inquisitor Pierre Leclerc was conducting mass trials that led to the burning of perhaps as many as 600 women. Mark Kurlansky reports that the fishermen had been absent, engaged in the annual cod season. But uh, when the men of the Saint Jean de Luz cod fleet, one of the largest from Basque County or country, heard rumors of their wives, mothers, and daughters being stripped, stabbed, and many already executed, the 1609 cod campaign was ended 2 months early. The fishermen returned, clubs in hands, and liberated a convoy of witches being taken to the burning place. This one popular resistance was all it took to stop the trials. The intervention of the Basque fishermen against the persecution of their female relatives was a unique event. No other group or organization rose up in defense of the witches. We know, instead, that some men made a business of denouncing women, appointing themselves as witch finders, traveling from village to village, threatening to expose women unless they paid up. Other men took advantage of the climate of suspicion surrounding women to free themselves from unwanted wives and lovers, or to blunt the revenge of women they had raped or seduced. Undoubtedly, men's failure to act against the atrocities to which women were subjected was often motivated by the fear of being implicated in the charges, as the majority of the men tried for this crime were relatives of suspected or convicted witches. But there is no doubt that years of propaganda and terror sowed among men the seeds of a deep psychological alienation from women that broke class solidarity and undermined their own collective power. We can agree with Marvin Harris that, quote, the witch hunt scattered and fragmented all the latent energies of protest. It has made everyone feel impotent and dependent upon the dominant social groups, and has furthermore given them a local outlet for their frustrations. By this, it has prevented the poor, more than any other social group, from confronting ecclesiastical authority and the secular order, and making their claims within the redistribution of wealth and the leveling of social status. End quote. Just as today, by repressing women, the ruling class more effectively repressed the entire proletariat. They instigated men who had been expropriated, pauperized, and criminalized to blame their personal misfortunes on the castrating witch, and to view the power that women had won against the authorities as a power women would use against them. All the deep-seated fears that men harbored with regard to women, mostly because of the church's misogynist propaganda, were mobilized in this context. Not only were women accused of making men impotent, even their sexuality was turned into an object of fear, a dangerous demonic force, as men were taught that a witch could enslave them and chain them to her will. A recurrent change in the witch trials was that witches engaged in degenerate sexual practices, centering on copulation with the devil and participation in the orgies that presumably took place at the Sabbath. But witches were also accused of generating an excessive erotic passion in men, so that it was an easy step for men caught in an illicit affair to claim they had been bewitched, or for a family wanting to terminate a son's relation with a woman of whom they did not approve, to accuse the latter of being a witch. Wrote in the Melius, quote, there are several methods by which witches infect the venereal act and the conception of the womb. First, by inclining the minds of men to inordinate passion. Second, by obstructing their generative force. Third, by removing the member accommodated to that act. Fourth, by changing men into beasts by their magic art. Fifth, by destroying the generative force in women. Sixth, by procuring abortion. Seventh, by offering children to the devil. That witches were accused simultaneously of rendering men impotent and arousing an excessive sexual passion in them is only apparently a contradiction. In the new patriarchal code that was developing in line with the witch hunt, physical impotence was the counterpart of moral impotence. It was the physical manifestation of the erosion of male authority over women, since functionally there would be no difference between a man who was castrated and one who was helplessly in love. The demonologists looked with suspicion at both states, clearly convinced that it would be impossible to realize the type of family the contemporary bourgeois wisdom demanded, modeled on the state, with a husband as the king and the wife subordinate to his will, selflessly devoted to the management of the household. If women with their glamour and love filters could exercise so much power as to make men the succubi of their desires, sexual passion undermined not only male authority over women, as Montaigne lamented, man can preserve his decor in everything except in the sexual act. It also undermined a man's capacity for self-government, causing him to lose that precious head wherein Cartesian philosophy was to locate the source of reason. A sexually active woman, then, was a public danger, a threat to the social order, as she subverted a man's sense of responsibility and his capacity for work and self-control. If women were not to ruin men morally, or more important, financially, female sexuality had to be exercised. This was accomplished by means of torture, death by fire, as well as the meticulous interrogations to which witches were subjected, which were a mixture of sexual exorcism and psychological rape. For women, then, the 16th and 17th centuries did inaugurate an age of sexual repression. Censorship and prohibition did come to define their relationship with sexuality. With Michel Foucault's critique of the repressive hypothesis in mind, we must also insist that it was not the Catholic pastoral nor the confession that best demonstrate how power at the dawn of the modern era made it compulsory for people to speak of sex. The discursive explosion on sex that Foucault detected in this time was in no place more powerfully exhibited than in the torture chambers of the witch hunt, but it had nothing in common with the mutual titillation that Foucault imagines flowing between the women and her confessor. Far outstripping any village priest, the inquisitors forced the witches to reveal their sexual adventures in every detail, undeterred by the fact that they were often old women and their sexual exploits dated back many decades. In an almost ritual manner, they forced the alleged witches to explain how, in their youth, they were first taken by the devil, what they had felt upon penetration, the impure thoughts they had harbored. But the stage upon which this particular discourse on sex unfolded was the torture chamber, and the questions were asked between applications of the strapato to women driven mad by pain, and by no stretch of imagination can we presume that the orgy of words the women thus tortured were forced to utter incited their pleasure or reorientated by linguistic sublimation, their desire. In the case of the witch hunt, which Foucault surprisingly ignores in his history of sexuality, the interminable discourse on sex was not deployed as an alternative to, but in the service of repression, censorship, and denial. Certainly, we can say that the language of the witch hunt produced the women as a different species, a being sui generis, whatever that means, more carnal and perverted by nature. We can also say that the production of the female pervert was a step in the transformation of the female the erotica into the levorativa, a language I have no clue what she's speaking. That is a first step in the transformation of female sexuality into work. Appreciate the destructive character of this process, which also demonstrates the limits of a general history of sexuality of the type Foucault has proposed, which treats sexuality from the perspective of an undifferentiated, gender neutral subject, and is an activity presumably carrying the same consequences for men as in women. So we are now on to the witch hunt and the capitalist the witch hunt and the capitalist rationalization of sexuality. The witch hunt did not result in new sexual capacities or sublimated pleasures for women. Instead, it was the first step in the long march towards clean sex between clean sheets, and the transformation of female sexual activity into work, a service to men, and procreation. Central to this process was the banning, as antisocial and virtually demonic, of all non productive, non procreative forms of female sexuality. The repulsion that non procreative sexuality was beginning to inspire is well captured by the myth of the old witch flying on her broom, which, like the animals she also rode upon, such as goats, mares, dogs, was the projection of an extended penis, symbol of the unbridled lust. This imagery portrays a new sexual discipline that denied the old and ugly woman, no longer fertile, the right to a sexual life. In the creation of this stereotype, the demonologists conformed to the moral sensibility of their time, as illustrated by the words of two illustrious contemporaries of the witch hunt. Quote, to see an old lecher, what more odious, what can be more absurd, and yet so common? Worse it is in women than in men. Whilst she is an old crone, a bedlam, she can neither see nor hear, a mere carcass. She caterwauls and must have a stallion. End quote. And another quote, yet it is even more fun to see the old women who can scarcely carry their weight of years and look like corpses that seem to have risen from the dead. They still go around saying life is good, still in heat, looking for a mate. They are forever smearing their faces with makeup and taking tweezers to their pubic hair, exposing their sagging, withered breasts and trying to rouse failing desire with their quivering, whining voices while they drink, dance among girls, and scribble their love letters. End quote. Many women accused and tried for witchcraft were old and poor. Often they depended on public charity for their survival. Witchcraft, we are told, is the weapon of the powerless. But old women were also those in the community most likely to resist the destruction of the communal relations caused by the spread of capitalist relations. They were the ones who embodied the community's knowledge and memory. The witch hunt turned the image of the old woman upside down. Traditionally considered a wise woman, she became a symbol of sterility and hostility to life. This was a far cry from the world of Chaucer, where the wife of Bath, after bearing 5 husbands, could still openly declare, quote, "Welcome the sixth. I don't mean to be chaste at all cost. When a spouse of mine is gone, another Christian man shall take me on," end quote, from Chaucer. In the world of Chaucer, the sexual vitality of the old woman was an affirmation of life against death. In the iconography of the witch hunt, old age precludes in women the possibility of a sexual life, contaminates it, turns sexual activity into a tool of death rather than a means of regeneration. Regardless of age, but not class, in the witch trials, is a constant identification between female sexuality and bestiality. This was suggested by copulation with the goat god, one of the representations of the devil. The infamous kiss sub coda and the charge that the witches kept a variety of animals, imps, or familiars that helped them in their crimes and with whom they entertained a particularly intimate relation. These were cats, dogs, hares, frogs that the witch cared for, presumably suckling them from special teats. Other animals, too, played a role in the witch's life as instruments of the devil. Goats and nightmares flew her to the sabbats. Toads provided her with the poison for concoctions. Such was the presence of animals in the witch's world that one must presume that they too were being put on trial. The marriage between the witch and her familiars was perhaps a reference to the bestial practices that characterized the sexual life of peasants in Europe, which remained a capital offense long after the end of the witch hunt, in an era that was beginning to worship reason and to disassociate the human from the corporeal animals, too were subjected to drastic devaluation. Reduced to mere brutes, the ultimate other, perennial symbol of the worst human instincts. No crime, then, would inspire more horror than copulation with a beast, a true attack on the ontological foundations of a human nature, increasingly identified with its most immaterial aspects. But the surplus of animal presences in the witches' lives also suggested that women were at a slippery crossroads between men and animals, and that not only female sexuality, but femininity as such, was akin to animality. To seal this equation, witches were often accused of shifting their shape and morphing into animals, while the most commonly cited familiar was the toad, which was as a symbol of the vagina synthesized sexuality, bestiality, femininity, and evil. The witch hunt condemned female sexuality as the source of every evil, but it was also the main vehicle for a broad restructuring of sexual life that, conforming with the new capitalist work discipline, criminalized any sexual activity that threatened procreation, the transmission of property within the family, or took time and energies away from work. The witch trials provide an instructive list of the forms of sexuality that were banned as non productive: homosexuality, sex between young and old, sex between people of different classes, anal coitus, coitus from behind, reputedly leading to sterile relations, nudity, and dances. Also prescribed was the public collective sexuality that had prevailed in the Middle Ages, as in the spring festivals of pagan origins that, in the 16th century, were still celebrated all over Europe. Compare, in this context, the way in which P. Stubbs in Anatomy of Abuse, circa 1583, described the celebration of May Day in England, with the standard accounts of the Sabbath which charged that the witches always danced at these gatherings, jumping up and down at the sound of pipes and flutes, and indulged in many collective sex and merrymaking. Quote, towards May, every parish, town, and village gets together, both men, women, and children, old and young. They run to the bushes and woods, hills and mountains, where they spend all the night in pleasant pastimes. And in the morning they return, bringing home birch boughs and branches of trees. The chiefest jewel they bring home is their maypole, which they bring home with great veneration. Then they fall to banquet and feast, to leap and dance about it, as heathen people did at the dedication of their idols. End quote. An analogous comparison can be made between the descriptions of the Sabbath and the descriptions which Scottish Presbyterian authorities made of pilgrimages to holy wells and other holy localities, which the Catholic Church had encouraged, but which the Presbyterians opposed as congregations of the devil and occasions for lewd affairs. As a general tendency throughout this period, any potentially transgressive meeting, peasants' gatherings, rebel camps, festivals, and dances, was described by the authorities as a virtual Sabbath. It is also significant that in some areas of northern Italy, going to the Sabbath was called going to the dance or going to the game, particularly when one considers the campaign that church and state were conducting against such pastimes. As Ginsburg points out, quote, once we remove from the Sabbath the myths and the fantastic trappings, we discover a gathering of people accompanied by dances and sexual promiscuity, end quote. And we must add much eating and drinking, surely a fantasy at a time when hunger was a common experience in Europe. How revealing concerning the nature of class relations at the time of the witch hunts, that dreams of roasted mutton and ale could be frowned upon by a well-fed, beef-eating bourgeoisie, as signs of a diabolical convenience. Ginsburg, however, following a well-trodden path, labels the orgies associated with the Sabbath as hallucinations of poor women, to whom they serve as a recompense of a squalid existence. In this way, he blames the victims for their demise. He also ignores that it was not the women accused of being witches, but Europe's elites who devoted reams of papers to discussing such hallucinations, debating, for instance, the roles of succubi and incubi, or whether the witch could be impregnated by the devil, a question that apparently was still of interest for intellectuals in the 18th century. Today, these grotesque disquisitions are screened of Western civilization, or are simply forgotten, although they wove a web that condemned hundreds of women to death. Thus, the role that the witch hunt has played in the development of the bourgeois world, and specifically in the development of the capitalist discipline of sexuality, has been erased from our memory. Yet, we can trace back to this process some of the main taboos of our time. This is the case with homosexuality, which in several parts of Europe was still fully accepted during the Renaissance, but was weeded out in the course of the witch hunt. So fierce was the persecution of homosexuals that its memory still sedimented in our language. Faggot reminds us that homosexuals were at times the kindling for the stakes upon which witches were burned, while the Italian finocchio or fennel refers to the practice of scattering these aromatic vegetables on the stakes in order to mask the stench of burning flesh. Of particular significance is the relation the witch hunt established between the prostitute and the witch, reflecting the process of devaluation that underwent in the capitalist reorganization of sexual work. As the saying went, a prostitute when young, a witch when old. For both used sex only to deceive and corrupt men, faking a love that was only mercenary. And both sold themselves in order to obtain money and an illicit power, the witch, who sold her soul to the devil, being the magnified image of the prostitute, who sold her body to men. Furthermore, both the old witch and the prostitute were symbols of sterility, the very personification of non-procreative sexuality. Thus, while the Middle Ages, the prostitute and the witch were considered positive figures who performed a social service for the community, with the witch hunt both acquired the most negative connotations and rejected as possible female identities, physically by death and socially by criminalization. For the prostitute died as a legal subject only after having died 1,000 times on the stake as a witch. Or better, the prostitute would be allowed to survive. She would even become useful, although in a clandestine fashion, only as long as the witch would be killed. For the witch was the more socially dangerous subject, the one who, in the eyes of the inquisitors, was less controllable. It was she who could give pain or pleasure, heal or harm, stir up the elements, and change the will of men. She could even cause damage solely by her look, an evil eye that presumably could kill. It was the sexual nature of her crimes and her lower class status that distinguished the witch from the Renaissance magician, who was largely immune from the persecution. High magic and witchcraft shared many elements. Themes derived from the learned magical tradition were introduced by the demonologists in the definition of witchcraft. Among them was the belief of Neoplatonic origin that Eros is a cosmic force, binding the universe through relations of sympathy and attraction, enabling the magician to manipulate and imitate nature in his experiments. A similar power was attributed to the witch, who reputedly could raise storms by mimically stirring a puddle, or could exercise an attraction similar to the bonding of metals in the alchemic tradition. The ideology of witchcraft also reflected the biblical tenet, common to both magic and alchemy, that stipulates a connection between sexuality and knowledge. The thesis that witches acquired their powers by copulating with the devil echoed the alchemic belief that women had appropriated the secrets of chemistry by copulating with rebel demons. High magic, however, was not persecuted, though alchemy was increasingly frowned upon, as it appeared an idle pursuit, and as such a waste of time and resources. The magicians were an elite who often serviced princes and other highly positioned people. And the demonologists carefully distinguished between them and the witches by including high magic, particularly astrology and astronomy, in the range of the sciences. All right, now we move on to the witch hunt and the New World. The counterparts of the typical European witch, then, were not the Renaissance magicians, but the colonized Native Americans and the enslaved Africans who, in the plantations of the New World, shared a destiny similar to that of women in Europe, providing for capital the seamlessly and limitless supply of labor necessary for accumulation. So connected were the destinies of women in Europe and those of Amerindians and colonies that their influences were reciprocal. Witch hunting and charges of devil worshipping were brought to the Americas to break the resistance of the local populations, justifying colonization and the slave trade in the eyes of the world. In turn, according to Luciano Perinato, it was the American experience that persuaded the European authorities to believe in the existence of an entire populations of witches, and instigated them to apply in Europe the same techniques of mass extermination developed in America. In Mexico, from 1536 to 1543, the Bishop Zumarraga conducted 19 trials involving 75 Indian heretics, mainly drawn from the political and religious leaders of central Mexican communities, a number of whom ended their lives at the stake. The Friar Diego de Landa led idolatry trials in the Yucatan during the 1560s, in which torture, whippings, and auto de la fe, whatever that means, figured prominently. Witch hunts were conducted also in Peru to destroy the cult of the local gods, considered demons by the Europeans. Everywhere the everywhere the Spaniards saw the face of the devil in food, in the primitive vices of the Indians, in their barbaric languages, end quote. In the colonies, too, it was women who were more vulnerable to being accused of being witches, for being held in special contempt by the Europeans as weak-minded females. They soon became the staunchest defenders of their communities. The common fate of Europe's witches and Europe's colonial subjects is further demonstrated by the growing exchange in the course of the 17th century between the ideology of witchcraft and the racist ideology that developed in the soil of the conquest and the slave trade. The devil was portrayed as a black man, and black people were increasingly treated like devils, so that devil worship and diabolical interventions became the most widely reported aspect of the non-European societies the slave traders encountered. From lapse to Samoyed to the Hottentots and Indonesians, there was no society. Anthony Baker writes, quote, which was not labeled by some Englishmen as actively under diabolical influence, end quote. Just as in Europe, the trademark of diabolism was an abnormal lust and sexual potency. The devil was often portrayed as possessing two penises, while tales of brutish sexual practices and inordinate fondness for music and dancing became staples in the reports of missionaries and travelers to the New World. Oh, here we go. Cat people. According to historian Brian Islam, this systematic exaggeration of black sexual potency betrays anxiety that white men of property felt towards their own sexuality. Presumably, white upper class males feared the competition of the people they enslaved. Because they felt sexually inadequate due to excessive doses of prudential reasoning. The over-sexualization of women and black men, witches and the devils, must also be rooted in the position which they occupied in the international division of labor that was emerging on the basis of the colonization of America, the slave trade, and the witch hunt. For the definition of blackness and femaleness as marks of bestiality and irrationality conformed with the exclusion of women in Europe and women and men in the colonies from the social contract implicit in the wage, and the consequent naturalization of their exploitation. Now we are on to the last little subchapter, The Witch, the Healer, and the Birth of Modern Science. Other motives operated behind the persecution of witches. Charges of witchcraft often served to punish the attack on property, primarily thefts, which increased dramatically in the 16th and 17th centuries following the increasing privatization of land and agriculture. As we have seen in England, poor women who begged for stole milk or wine from the houses of their neighbors or were on public assistance were likely to be suspected of practicing evil arts. Alan McFarlane and Keith Thomas have shown in this period there was a marked deterioration in the condition of old women following the loss of the commons and the reorganization of family life, which gave priority to child raising at the expense of the care previously provided to the elderly. These elders were now forced to rely on their friends or neighbors for their survival, or joined the poor wolves at the very time when the new Protestant ethic was beginning to finger almsgiving as a waste and an encouragement to sloth, and as institutions that in the past had catered to the poor were breaking down. Some poor women presumably used the fear that their reputation as witches inspired to obtain what they needed. But it was not just the bad witch who cursed and allegedly lamed cattle, ruined crops, or caused her employer's children to die that was condemned. The good witch who made sorcery her career was also punished, often more severely. Historically, the witch was the village midwife, medic, soothsayer, or sorceress, whose privileged area of competence, as Burchard wrote concerning the Italian witches, was amorous intrigue. An urban embodiment of this type of witch was the Celestina in the play by Fernando de Rojas in 1499. Of her, it was said that, quote, she had 6 trades, to wit, laundress, perfumer, a master hand at making cosmetics and replacing damaged maidenheads, procures, and something of a witch. Her first trade was a cover for the rest, and with this excuse, many servant girls went to her house to do their washing. You can't imagine the traffic she carried on. She was a baby doctor. She picked up flax in one house and brought it to another. All this as an excuse to get in everywhere. One would say, Mother, come here, or Here comes the mistress. Everyone knew her, and yet in spite of her many duties, she found time to go to Mass or Vesper. End quote. A more typical healer, however, was Costanza, a woman tried as a witch in San Miniato, a small town in Toscana, in 1594. After becoming a widow, Costanza had set herself up as a professional healer, soon becoming well known in the region for her therapeutic remedies and exorcisms. She lived with her niece and 2 other women, widows as well. A next-door neighbor, also a widow, gave her the spices for her drugs. She received her clients in her home, but she also traveled wherever she was needed to mark an animal, visit a sick person, help people carry out a revenge, or free themselves from the effects of medical charms. Her tools were natural oils and powders, as well as devices apt to cure and protect by sympathy or contract. It was not in her interest to inspire fear in her community, as practicing her arts was her way of making a living. She was, in fact, very popular. Everyone would go to her to be cured, to have his or her fortune told, to find missing objects, or to buy love potions. But she did not escape persecution. After the Council of Trento, 1545 to 1563, the Counter Reformation took a strong position against popular healers, fearing their power and deep roots in the culture of their communities. In England as well, the fate of the good witches was sealed in 1604 when a statute passed by James I established the death penalty for anyone who used spirits and magic, even if they caused no visible harm. With the persecution of the folk healer, women were expropriated from a patrimony of empirical knowledge regarding herbs and healing remedies that they had accumulated and transmitted from generation to generation, its loss paving the way for a new form of enclosure. This was the rise of professional medicine, which erected in front of the lower classes a wall of unintelligible scientific knowledge, unaffordable and alien despite its curative pretenses. The displacement of the folk healer, or witch, by the doctor raises the question of the role that the development of modern science and the scientific worldview played in the rise and fall of the witch hunt. On this question, we have two opposite viewpoints. On one side, we have the theory descending from the Enlightenment, which credits the advent of scientific rationalism as the key factor in the termination of the persecution. As formulated by Joseph Clates in 1985, this theory argues that the new science transformed intellectual life, generating a new skepticism as, quote, it revealed the universe as a self-regulating mechanism in which direct and constant divine intervention was unnecessary, unquote. However, Clates admits that the same judges who by the 1650s were putting a brake on witch trials never questioned the reality of witchcraft. Quote, neither in France nor anywhere else did the 17th century judges who put an end to witch hunting profess that there were no witches. Like Newton and other scientists of the time, judges continued to accept supernatural magic as theoretically plausible, end quote. Indeed, there is no evidence that the new science had a liberating effect. The mechanistic view of nature that came into existence with the rise of modern science disenchanted the world. But there is no evidence that those who promoted it ever spoke in defense of the women accused as witches. Descartes declared himself an agnostic on this matter. Other mechanical philosophers like Joseph Glanville and Thomas Hobbes strongly supported the witch hunt. What ended the witch hunt, as Brian Aisley has convincingly shown, was the annihilation of the world of the witches and the imposition of the social discipline that the victorious capitalist system required. In other words, the witch hunt came to an end by the late 17th century because the ruling class by this time enjoyed a growing sense of security concerning its power, not because a more enlightened view of the world had emerged. The question that remains is whether the rise of the modern scientific method can be considered the cause of the witch hunt. This view has been argued most forcefully by Carolyn Merchant in her book, The Death of Nature, published in 1980. I'd just like to say that that's a good book, by the way, which roots the persecution of the witches in the paradigm shift, the scientific revolution, and particularly the rise of Cartesian mechanistic philosophy provoked. According to Merchant, this shift replaced an organic worldview that had looked at nature, women, and the earth as nurturing mothers, with a mechanical one that degraded them to the rank of standing resources, removing any ethical constraints to their exploitation. The woman as witch, Merchant argues, was persecuted as embodiment of the wild side of nature, of all that in nature seemed disorderly, uncontrollable, and thus antagonistic to the project undertaken by the new science. Merchant finds a proof of the connection between the persecution of the witches and the rise of modern science in the work of Francis Bacon, one of the reputed fathers of the new scientific method, showing that his concept of the scientific investigation of nature was modeled on the interrogation of the witches under torture, portraying nature as a woman to be conquered, unveiled, and raped. Merchant's account has the great merit of challenging the assumption that scientific rationalism was a vehicle of progress It focuses our attention on the profound alienation that modern science has instituted between human beings and nature. It also links the witch hunt to the destruction of the environment and connects the capitalist exploitation of the natural world with the exploitation of women. Merchant, however, overlooks the fact that the organic worldview, which the elites embraced in pre scientific Europe, left room for slavery and the extermination of the heretics. We also know that the aspiration to the technological domination of nature and the appropriation of women's creative powers has accommodated different cosmological frameworks. The Renaissance magicians were no less interested in these objectives. While Newtonian physics owed its discovery of gravitational attraction not to a mechanistic, but to a magical view of nature. Furthermore, when the vogue for philosophical mechanism had run its course by the beginning of the 18th century, new philosophical trends emerged that stressed the value of sympathy, sensibility, and passion, and yet were easily integrated in the project of the new science. We should also consider that the intellectual scaffold that supported the persecution of the witches was not directly taken from the pages of philosophical rationalism. Rather, it was transitional phenomenon, a sort of ideological bricolage that evolved under the pressure of the task it had to accomplish. Within it, elements taken from the fantastic world of medieval Christianity, rationalistic arguments, and modern bureaucratic court procedures combined in the same way as in the forging of Nazism, the cult of science and technology combined with a scenario pretending to restore an archaic mythical world of blood bonds and pre-monetary allegiances. This point is suggested by Perenito, who observes that the witch hunt was a classical instance, unfortunately not the last, of how in the history of capitalism, going back was a means of stepping forward from the viewpoint of establishing the conditions for capital accumulation. For encountering the devil, the inquisitors disposed of popular animism, and pantheism, redefining in a more centralized fashion the location and distribution of power in the cosmos and society. Thus, paradoxically, in the witch hunt, the devil functioned as the true servant of God. He was the operator that most contributed to paving the way of the new science. Like a bailiff or God's secret agent, the devil brought order to the world, emptying it from competing influences and reasserting God as the exclusive ruler. He so well consolidated God's command over human affairs that within a century, with the advent of Newtonian physics, God would be able to retire from the world, content to guard its clock like operations from afar. Rationalism and mechanism then were not the immediate cause of the persecutions, although they contributed to create a world committed to the exploitation of nature. More important in instigating the witch hunt was the need of the European elites to eradicate an entire mode of existence which, by the late Middle Ages, was threatening their political and economic power. When this task was accomplished, when social discipline was restored, and the ruling class saw its hegemony consolidated, witch trials came to an end. The belief in witchcraft could even become an object of ridicule, decried as a superstition, and soon put out of memory. This process began throughout Europe. Toward the end of the 17th century, the witch trials continued in Scotland for 3 more decades. A factor contributing to the end of the witch hunt was the fact that the ruling class was beginning to lose control over it, coming under the fire of its own repressive machine with denunciations targeting even its own members. Middlefort writes that in Germany, quote, as the flames licked closer to the names of people who enjoyed high rank and power, the judges lost confidence in the confessions and the panic ceased, end quote. In France, too, the final wave of trials brought widespread social disorder. Servants accused their masters, children accused their parents, husbands accused their wives. Under these circumstances, the king decided to intervene, and Colbert extended Paris's jurisdiction to the whole of France to end the persecution. A new legal code was promulgated in which witchcraft was not even mentioned. Just as the state had started the witch hunt, so too, one by one, various governments took the initiative in ending it. From the mid 17th century on, efforts were made to break judicial and inquisitional zeal. Yeah. One immediate consequence was that in the 18th century, common crimes suddenly multiplied. In England between 1686 and 1712, as the witch hunt died down, arrests for damage to property, burning of granaries, houses, and haystacks in particular, and assaults rose enormously, while new crimes entered the statute books. Blasphemy began to be treated as a punishable offense. In France, it was decreed that after the sixth conviction, the blasphemers would have their tongues cut out, and so was sacrilege, the profanation of relics, and the theft of hosts. New limits were also put on the sale of poisons. Their private use was forbidden. Their sale was made conditional upon the acquisition of a license, and the death penalty was extended to poisoners. All this suggests that the new social order was by now sufficiently consolidated for crimes to be identified and punished as such without any recourse to the supernatural. In the words of a French parliamentarian, quote, witches and sorcerers are no longer condemned, firstly, because it is difficult to establish proof of witchcraft, and secondly, because such condemnations have been used to do harm. One has ceased, therefore, to accuse them of the uncertain in order to accuse them of the certain. Unquote. Once the subversive potential of witchcraft was destroyed, the practice of magic could even be allowed to continue. After the witch hunt came to an end, many women continued to support themselves by foretelling the future, selling charms, and practicing other forms of magic. As Pierre Biel reported in 1704, quote, in many provinces of France, in Savoy, in the canton of Bern, and many other places of Europe, there is no village or hamlet, no matter how small, where someone is not considered a witch, end quote. In 18th century France, an interest for witchcraft developed also among the urban nobility, who, being excluded from economic production and sensing that their privileges were coming under attack, satisfied their desire for power by recourse to the magical arts. But now the authorities were no longer interested in persecuting these practices, being inclined instead to view witchcraft as a product of ignorance or a disorder of the imagination. By the 18th century, the European intelligentsia even began to take pride in its acquired enlightenment and confidently proceeded to rewrite the history of the witch hunt, dismissing it as a product of medieval superstition. Yet the specter of the witches continued to haunt the imagination of the ruling class. In 1871, the Parisian bourgeoisie instinctively returned to it to demonize the female communards, accusing them of wanting to set Paris aflame. There can be little doubt, in fact, that the models for the lurid tales and images used by the bourgeois press to create the myth of the Petroliusos, whatever that means, were drawn from the repertoire of the witch hunts. As described by Edith Thomas, the enemies of the commune claimed that thousands of proletarian women roamed, like witches, the city day and night, with pots full of kerosene and stickers with the notation BPB, or Bon pour brûler, or translated good for torching, presumably following instructions given to them as part of a great conspiracy to reduce Paris to ashes in front of the troops advancing from Versailles. Thomas writes that petroliusos were to be found everywhere. In the areas occupied Versailles army, it was enough that a woman be poor and ill-dressed and that she be carrying a basket, box, or milk bottle to be suspected. Hundreds of women were thus similarly executed while the press vilified them in the papers. Like the witch, the Petrolieuse, I guess it's French, was depicted as an older woman with a wild, savage look and uncombed hair. In her hands was a container for the liquid she used to perpetrate her crimes. And we're done.
Yay! That was awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Shit. Hello?
Oh, I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know why I
Great.
did that again.
Well, at least it waited.
Hopefully, I didn't cut out or like that when I was reading.
Not that I had noticed. There was a little
Okay,
bit
good.
breaking up. You broke up a little bit, but it was really good.
Yeah, I can read this one much better, so I'm going to stick with the tablet.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt that that was much better because, like, sometimes I'm having the other ones just it's getting a little too old. I need to reprint it.
Mm. This just happens to be the noisiest time that there's been around here. Sorry. I love you. It's okay. It's it's just so ironic. I've been muted for an hour, and like,
Yeah, they're all
yeah.
good.
So,
Did you see the cat
yes,
people? There was
yes,
cat people.
yes. That was that. I may have actually chuckled a little bit when that picture came by. I was like,
I know. I made sure that everyone knew about the cat people when it was coming up.
I'm sorry.
It's all tangled.
Yeah, I have like
Darn it.
a page and a half of notes. Some of that was really, I wished I could like pause it and rewind it so I could write it down verbatim, you know?
Hmm.
And I love, but I think my favorite part was the bit about which Foucault surprisingly ignores. And you said there
I
was,
know. I love the way. I love the way she just shits on him. I'm like you. I'm like I like you. Me and
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah, like shocking, shocking.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
uh, and about how, when men are trying to call upon the devil, he's like this dude who's at their beck and call, but, for women, he has to be this domineering character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It
He's,
just shows the like complete like obliviousness of like men when
yeah,
you have like Michel Foucault going a history of sexuality through Europe in this time period and never mentions once witch hunt. Like, how can you like as if like it has like how can you go through history and not like be like right?
I
Because
don't
it's just
know.
it's irrelevant. It's irrelevance, right? Because women are not and have any like authority or like autonomy in history have any sort of position to change anything or be the
Yeah.
object of it. No, it's just nothing, right? They're nothing, just completely out of mind. Because like, how can you ignore that when it's like the biggest mass like like execution
Well,
of
it's like
group
he
of
has an
people?
axe to grind or something. It's like he's doing this
Yeah.
to support his own presuppositions or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think she was mentioning is the only thing that he like touched upon was how women like enjoyed themselves with the power dynamic between while they like the Inquisition and stuff. It's like, no, you stupid. They were tortured into it. Like they didn't derive pleasure on it. You have to remember you're reading something from the fucking inquisitors that are writing it down.
Right. It's that's
But he just
I
takes it
would.
for what it is because like, you know,
Well,
like
again, this Michelle Foucault doesn't have the benefit of being an American because to me, whenever somebody in a power dynamic like that claims that the other person is enjoying whatever is going on, I'm like, that sounds oddly familiar. That's why the slaves were singing, right? 'Cause they were having so much fun.
yeah, but the thing is, it's the same thing with the whole queer movement. That's why, like, they like to play with gender, and they embrace sadomasochism, like the dominant, subversive, and just play with it, because that's what that's what one of their theories suggests to do. That's how somehow liberating. It's to embrace and like play with hierarchy that way in subordination and domination dynamic is not something that we should be embracing.
That's like playing with fire. And I know that that's an overused metaphor, but like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why they have such a like people. The fact that you want to get off on that sort of hierarchy and power dynamic is fucked. It
yeah.
just is. Like that's like why is that like good?
I feel
Why
like
is that
maybe it
liberating?
speaks to the fact that it has wormed its way a little too deep into your soul.
Yeah, right.
Such a thing should ideally be an escape from all of that, I would say, but that's just me, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to try to like incorporate that power dynamic and infuse it with someone's sexuality is super dangerous.
I think it accepts the idea, which I have seen in a lot of different diverse places, that such an act is inherently hierarchical.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's always framed as being hierarchical in his favor, of course.
Of course. This is a guy that like advocated for the removal of age limits, age of consent, even
Oh,
down
right.
to
We're still talking
babies.
about
Even down
Foucault.
to babies. He's a sexual pest tourist. He traveled all over the place to rape little boys. So, like, yeah, he did really, like, yeah, of course he's going to advocate for this because he is the one who's, like, getting something out of it. It's not him who's, like, a little boy getting, like, buggered. If it was the opposite way around, he might think differently, but no, he's there's a lot of things with Michel Foucault that it's very suspect. I know that there's some things that suggest that he was working actually on CIA money, which I
Yeah.
wouldn't be
I
surprised.
was going to say,
So,
I've been waiting to say this whole time, based on what I've learned about that whole kind of thing. I'm just like, oh, is someone a French intellectual? I'm just going to disregard everything they've ever said.
right, the French postmodern intellectuals, quote unquote, are the worst. And I swear to God, they're funded by CIA and made for propaganda purposes because it just reinforces hierarchies.
No,
Really
right.
does.
And I
And it
saw,
makes it so impotent, any resistance impotent when
yeah,
like nothing can be like understood like as a truth. Like there's no
right,
truth to anything. It's all
right,
subject. That make it
right.
so it takes away all manner of being able to have the tools to fight back at something that
But
is physically
the
harming
worst
you.
thing about it for me is how tricksy it is because at first glance it feels empowering, right?
Yeah.
That like your perspective is just as good as anyone else's, right? There's no objective truth. So, all of a sudden things can feel less intimidating. Like I get it. On an emotional level, it can be appealing, especially if you're like afraid or intimidated by the world, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, because the world's a really like scary place sometimes, and it's easier. It's a cop out.
There's a lot of stuff out there like that. Manifestation is like that, where it blames the victim, right? If it didn't work for you, it's just because you're not praying hard enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
No, Susan, it didn't work for you because physics doesn't work that way, because money doesn't work that way, because world, it's like,
yeah.
and I guess the trans movement is like that too, where, you just
Oh,
have to believe hard enough.
yeah,
And it's
exactly.
all very victim blamey shit that feels empowering. It's just so,
It feels empowering, but what it is in reality is a cop out. It's so that you don't have to
oh
challenge
yeah.
actual power.
It stops you from doing critical thinking, and then and you keep all of your doubts to yourself because they are your own, they're your failing, right?
Yeah,
It's toxic positivity, basically.
yeah, yeah. Which is just
And it's
like
everywhere.
it,
It's got
it,
so many
and
different
it's so
forms. It's
navel
so
gazing. It
weird.
just makes you look at your own fucking navel and think that that's how some are morally like superior. It's like a neoliberal's wet dream of individuality.
Well, it's warm and cozy in there,
Yeah,
in your
it's
navel.
warm and cozy.
You know?
It is definitely warm and cozy when you shove your old head up your ass. Yes, it
Yeah, right.
certainly is.
You're right. You're right. You're right. That's why toxic positivity is bullshit. It's because doing what makes you feel good is like not how life works.
Yep.
Duh. Like this is, I don't know. And that,
No,
I
I
feel like
understand.
no, the worst part is I feel like I sound really red coded when I say stuff like that.
Why?
Because the discourse, I don't know, because the discourse has managed to be turned to the point where talking about free speech sounds like, um, right wing. Like they're trying to make that into a right wing
Yeah,
talking
I
point. And
know,
it's like,
right?
no, 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 no,
But
no,
but
no,
but
no,
the
no.
thing is, but the thing is, see, it's aesthetics because the right wing does the same thing. It just
And they
with
don't
what
actually give a
they
fuck
like,
about,
they not set they can and then censor things that they don't like. It's the same thing, the
yeah,
same bullshit.
yeah. The right wing doesn't give a fuck about free speech. Everybody knows that. The right wing are the fascists. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what? What?
Yes,
What censor?
liberals don't like free speech either, but so do the
No,
right. They just
no.
go about it in
Right.
different ways, right? Different
Right, right,
aesthetic.
right. The ends are the same and the aesthetics are different. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
But like, I hate to call them liberals because of what the word liberal actually means. You know, it's a misnomer.
Well, not
I
like liberation or a libertarian. It used to like
right.
libertarian also never used to be right wing. It is in
No, I know.
America.
I know. I know. It's absurd.
Yeah. because they use the different, they like to they colonize the different words for themselves and use it in a way that historically is like upside down. It's been turned upside down, right? It's been appropriated, basically.
Right, right, and like so that threw me for a loop for the longest time. It's
Mhm.
embarrassing, probably, and it still like gives me a twitch
I
to
know.
refer
It's
to
the
those
same thing
people
with
as
me. It's the same thing
liberals.
with
Like
me when it
what?
comes to other things, like when people talk about, yeah, even just left, because what they think is what they're calling left isn't left.
No,
And then they start to, like, and then they go and say, this is what socialism is. It's a Russian thing. It's a Chinese thing. It's Iran. It's like, oh my god, just stop, because like
yeah,
it's just bullshit.
right. It's
It's
plain
bullshit.
semantics,
Yeah,
which
it's
I
just plain
just
semantics.
which like I recognize word games when I see them. I guess you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just so annoying that so many people take that shit so seriously. But
One
like,
of the worst ones is what they've done to anarchism. Like anarchism now. Oh my god! Because as a theory, well, it's not a theory, it's a philosophy, it's a political philosophy, which they've all denounced now. All these new anarchist movements or whatever have all denounced old anarchist theorists as being problematic.
it sounds like
So like,
feminism.
where's your like, because people have a concept of what like a lot of the history when it comes to that, like when it comes to uh anarchist syndicalists or whatever, which like helps take down fascism in, like, say, Spain and stuff like that. But you don't
Mm.
ever hear about the theories and that and how it worked in that era. You just hear about like these fucking like guys in baklavas or whatever, like beating up a bunch of people, and like now it's associated with that. And it's like, ugh, because there's a history there that is had nothing to do with that. But they've denounced all of the older sort of philosophical texts and accounts of what it actually is, because it's
Well,
not
you
just
know,
chaos. It
Eileen,
doesn't mean anarchists don't believe in chaos. It's uh or it's order in like they see as capitalism and hierarchy as chaotic because it goes against equality. So they believe in order. That's why you have the symbol being an O and an A, right? The order of anarchy. So it's supposed to be, there is a natural order to it. It's not
hmm.
just chaos. But
Well,
but
that
that
wouldn't make
is
any sense.
what.
Chaos as a political philosophy makes no damn sense.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So I always assumed it couldn't be that. I always figured there's more depth to it. Like,
There is, and that's the thing. But you never hear anyone admit to
no,
that.
you don't.
And it's been
No, you
because
don't.
it's been a long time now since like it's been really pounded on, ever since like the French and postmodern intellectuals who called themselves anarchists, which
Here, okay.
I don't.
You know, and like this has actually been something that's been really big on my mind lately, chaos and like discordianism, especially since I found out that all of that bullshit about like ancient aliens and Atlantis and all that bullshit comes from discordianism.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I didn't tell you about this. Yes, motherfucker, I could tell you their names if I could go back to my diary entry. I'm bad with William Robert Anton Wilson was the guy who wrote the Principia Discordia, right? Which I'm pronouncing correctly just because he wouldn't want me to do that because that's the kind of people these people were, okay? And like he had a buddy who worked at the Playboy magazine in the 60s and he wrote in a bunch of these wild letters and that's where it started and they ended up publishing 3 books in the 70s
Oh.
about it. Yeah, these people made this shit up.
Yeah.
Okay. And along with like the satanic panic in the 80s and whatever, it like became part of the
Yeah.
cultural lexicon. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why you never hear about this shit going back any further than that because I have been wondering about that. Like why you like going you hear all kind of about aliens, right? But like the idea that ancient aliens, Atlantis, blah blah, like all that shit, that whole package. Like, why wasn't Madame Blavatsky talking about that? Like, she kind of was, but like, not really. I'm like, this, but that construct was literally invented by Discordians to sow chaos. That's what this is for, and that's what it's done. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people associate like anarchism as.
Hmm.
So that's interesting.
Right. No, and so, but Discordianism is an actual thing that a lot of people don't know very much about. And I'm probably going to do a
I know,
video
but a
about
lot
it
of the
because,
anarchists nowadays think that that's what it is and try to implement that, or being
right,
just
well,
transgressive, right? A lot of the postmodern queer shit has been associated with it or like infused with
mhm,
it, like I think on purpose. But that's
right.
not what it means. If you actually go back and read like the founding of it, with Michael,
Hmm.
oh, what's his name? Mikhail. Oh, what's his last name?
I don't know.
Buchanan. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's a German name. He was the one who actually was friends with Karl Marx until they had a rift because after Karl Marx started to promote communism, and he said that
Uh-huh.
communism will just produce a red bureaucracy that will be that more like that will be completely horrible and
Wow.
very much. Yeah, he pretty much out of the political sciences was the one who actually like wrote about what would happen, and it came to be like came to be there will be a
Right.
capitalist and there will be like a communist, and both would be bloody, and he talked about that, and it actually came to fruition. Now
Hmm.
to try to find a lot of his works now is hard, but he's the father of anarchism.
Ah.
Anarchism, by the way, it's not a theory, a political theory, it's a political philosophy. So that's another thing that people kind of get construed and mixed up with. It's a philosophy that just basically means of liberation of so that's all,
Say it again. You were breaking up
right?
there
That's
for
the
a
basic
second.
foundation of it. Oh, I said, I said it's not a political theory, it's more political philosophy
Right.
that supports the notion of liberation of unjust forms of hierarchy.
Okay.
So that includes communism.
Right.
So yeah, and they had a massive falling out because of that, because he critiqued it, and Karl Marx like got all uppity with him about it, and it was like really famous like break away from that.
Yeah. Wow.
Michael Bakunin, there we go, that's his name. Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah.
And I think that honestly, I think Discordians have been out there sowing a whole lot of trouble for a long time under the
Yeah.
radar. Like they're not a group that a lot of people know a lot about.
Mm,
Apparently, I've
yeah.
known a couple like personally, so
Oh,
I didn't
crazy.
realize that it was like a big thing like that. Like,
Yeah, I didn't either actually, and I know these kind of things. So
yeah, well, I keep running into it lately, and I'm like, or stuff that looks like it. You know,
yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
looks like so that when you start to get this feeling like, wait, is somebody just fucking with us? Yes,
yeah.
there's a good chance that
But
they are, and that might be why.
that evidently leads to helping out like the how it is like politically, economically now, because people now have associations, say, with conspiracy, with some of these like kooky ideas of what conspiracy is, and they like associate, which helps out power systems, right? Because they get
Right.
to put an association with people critiquing the power system with
Hmm.
these kooks of discourse.
Right, and I think sometimes it's a con artist where it's just game recognized game, right? And
Yeah,
they step into that field and start ginning up the same shit, even though they don't believe a damn thing. The scariest are the ones that do believe it, though.
yeah, that's crazy.
That the world is literally controlled by lizard people from outer space.
Scientology.
No, I mean, yeah, but no, it's not even that. It's a whole
No, but
separate
that just reminded me
thing.
of Scientology, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Has the same sort of like fucking crazy ass beginnings.
At least
Like
with the
that's
new age lizard people, they're not going to charge you 10 grand per lesson. Holy shit. In the late 60s,
yeah.
two Discordian writers called Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea were working at Playboy magazine where they were responsible for the letters page. Thank you, Scott. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's it. Yes. hmm
Yeah, that's what she was saying. I gotta look into this. I gotta look into this. I don't know. I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. Oh no.
Oh, prepare to have fun. Prepare to be amazed. Oh
No.
my god. Yeah. They just.
Uh-uh.
Oh my god. The '70s must have been such a time between The
No.
Exorcist and the books about Atlantis. Like the last 50 years have been so completely fucked. Like, do the boomers have difficulty telling the difference between fiction and reality? That's what I'm getting from all of that.
Yeah.
um,
This is like, well, the 70s was crazy. Like a lot of the hippie cults
yeah,
kind of coming out of it, love cults. Yeah,
yeah.
emerged from this era. Like,
Right,
scary.
like a lot of the people who later went on to have like demonic possession stories, the amount that they resembled like the Exorcist that they had seen 10 years
Yeah,
earlier, and it's so like I don't know. Maybe they were all just traumatized. I don't know. Like going to the movies as a kid. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. The sort of panic with the whole um, like old regressive memories and bringing them back up or something that never
hmm
happened.
Right, right. That is another thing that's so terrifying. But again, it doesn't hold up to critical thought for like even a second, right? Because if you could
It
just
doesn't.
do
No.
that, if you could just call up repress, like we would know that, right? Historically, that would have been a thing, right? Like,
Yeah. Like, even though people have different reactions to trauma, to have full amnesia until someone like kind of has to
puts you
get it
like
out of
lays
you
you down
is,
and gets
I
you really
gotta say,
relaxed.
kind of fucking rare. Usually, when you have a traumatizing experience, you still remember it.
You're right. And
It's not
like
like you completely
regression of
just
any
forget and
kind.
you're living life fine until all of a sudden someone suggests it to you. I don't know, man.
No, yeah, and the idea of like regression of any kind, like hypnosis. If hypnosis were a thing, really, like
Yeah.
really a thing, don't you think that people would have known that a long time ago? Like armies would be using hypnosis. You wouldn't even need to like go in with guns. Like what a waste of ammunition. You just go in and
Yeah, they've
hypnotize
and they've been
everybody.
and they've been really trying to find that fucking sweet spot of fucking trying to
Yeah,
hypnotize people with
I'm not saying like it's possible to herd people, but it takes time. You can't just walk up to somebody's door, swing a watch in front of their face, and have them follow you out to the truck. That's not how that works.
right. They did a lot of experiments like that's just the MK Ultra experiments where they literally try to accumulated into the Kubrick report that they use now for
Yeah.
torture about
Right.
disassociating yourself from the self, and it takes a lot of like psychological physical torturous like
To break
methods
somebody
to actually
down.
get
Yeah.
someone to erase their memory, and that doesn't mean you can
Right.
piece it back together.
Right. Then
So
you
the
have a
fact
broken
that you can just
person.
cut like, oh, it's
Congratulations.
just regressed it completely and then bringing it all back now, like, yeah, no. I mean,
No.
they would have loved that.
Right. If hypnosis really worked like that, like the whole world would be very different.
Yeah.
And I feel like advertising would not be allowed.
Yeah. Yeah, there wouldn't also be so many methods of having to manipulate either if they
Right.
could just do that
Right. Yeah.
with citizens. Like they have to be more insidiously sneaky.
mhm. Mhm.
Or like they
They
would
have
have
to
to
make
be
you
so
think it's your own
insidiously sneaky
idea.
like that, right? If it was that easy.
Right. You can't just walk up to somebody and be like, "You want to do this," and have them go, "Okay."
Right?
And the reason that
I'm just like
hypnosis does
writing
work
down
is
the
because
fucking
you
names of this
volunteer to
fucking
be
like people right
hypnotized.
now. Sorry, what?
Huh? I was
I
just
said
gonna
I'm
say
just
the
right
reason.
now writing down the names of these people so I can get looking into this shit afterwards.
Yeah, you're gonna have some fun with that one. It's wild,
Oh, no.
and it's just really inspiring a large train of thought for me, because it's there's also it goes in both directions. Like it has a political end and it has like chaos magic, which is this whole thing. Like those guys were inspired by I shit thee not. Um, what's his name now? The devil worshiper guy, the bald one.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, the guy who wrote the Satanic Bible.
Crowley. No, not LeVay. They were both bald though. That's funny. No, I don't really take LeVay very seriously. He's such a carny. He's such a phony. It's so ridiculous. Like that's his background. I'm serious.
Carney. What a carney.
He's a showman. Okay, it's also such And he included the Enochian alphabet in his Bible,
For sure.
in his Satanic Bible, which is funny because John D took that shit very seriously. John D is a bit of a oh my god. If you don't know who that is, you're welcome. Have fun with that as well.
No.
Oh my god.
No. I don't want it.
Oh my god. Him and his assistant thought that they were channeling angels. It's wild. And I just so, and LeVay straight up says that he thinks it's all for show. He just thinks humans psychologically need pageantry. So
I don't think we need it, but like it could be a creative sort of split, but
and I think in that way, I would say like LeVay and Robert Anton Wilson are kind of in the same vein of like they're just disruptors. They don't actually believe any of that shit.
yeah. This brings into what we're going to be doing next, because we're going to be coming to close to the end
Okay.
of this. So I'm not too sure what you want to do going forward. If you want,
I have an idea for Halloween because I always have to do this video for Halloween. So I'm kind of working on something, but
I can't hear it because you're moving your mic on your little.
Oh shit. Okay, sorry. I have an idea. I have an idea for Halloween. I always have to do this video for Halloween, but and a couple of ideas for like maybe a monthly thing moving forward after that.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily. I mean, I'll just schedule it around this, or we can schedule around that, or because I was gonna put them up on Wednesdays probably anyway, just in case anyone cares to look for me. I'll put them there, up when they might be looking,
Yeah.
But so I could do that at 11, and then we could do this at noon or something like that, maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't have to worry about that till October. So you had something you wanted to read next, didn't you?
There was a few things that I had in mind, but like I haven't picked on anything. There's a bunch of books. I'm like, I got so many books. I'm such a nerd. Yeah, there was that Wild Politics one. There was what's it called? Blowback, that one. There's that gender, but I forget what gender about something brain science, gender in the female brain or something like that. By a neuroscientist who disputes, the idea that someone could be born in the wrong body, and how brain science, like there's a female brain and the male brain. She's like a famous, neuroscientist. So there's that. There's also other ones. The Patriarchy and Accumulation, Women in the Third World and the Division of Labor one. There was The Shock of the Anthropocene is really good too. So there's a bunch.
Yeah, that last one sounds frightening.
Yeah, that one's really good. It goes into because a lot of people, like when they think about climate change and all that, they think just stop oil, do, when it's so much more.
Yeah.
It's about exploiting resources and the thermodynamics, like earth science thermodynamics, and how taking all these evolutions beings, such as plants and animals, and just like wiping them out a big swath, which capitalism does, like
Yeah.
really fucks up the thermodynamics between the world and space, because it's trying to there's always like this push or pull, like inertia to um equalize
Right.
the dead of space and Earth, right? So there's this evolution's forward to create a lot of opportunities for that to keep its like not in balance but out of balance, which it needs to be to run and
Right.
function as a habitable planet. Anyways, yeah. So it goes into all of that and all the causes, like the military and capitalism and all that. So just and the effects
Mm.
and how this has been known, and this has been known since like the 1800s. Like the scientists have like knew about the biosphere and how damaging it is and changing it is, right?
Yeah, well, they started studying all that. I mean,
So
there was
there's
that
that.
guy. What was his name? Darwin?
Who? Darwin? Yeah.
The Exorcist was inspired by a girl in Iowa who was possessed for decades and finally exorcised in 1928. Don't get me started on exorcism, man. That stuff gets me riled up. That stuff gets me riled up. It makes me so angry.
Yeah.
Because I see that it's tormenting mentally ill people.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Some of whom have, epilepsy.
Or even
Um,
schizophrenia.
yeah. But a lot of them, it's a big theory. It's and they know that girl Annalisa Michelle is the I forget which one. There was a big movie that was based on her, and she died at like age of like 21 or something after starving herself to death for 4 years because the God in her head was telling her to do. She was diagnosed with um temporal lobe epilepsy,
Oh yeah.
which is the kind of thing that only has been able to be measured in the last like 30 years or some shit. Like they didn't even know this shit existed.
Yeah.
But like,
My
so it
I have
makes
a
me
friend
very
who's got
angry.
schizophrenic affective disorder,
Oh,
which yeah, so it's not schizophrenia, but it's schizoaffective disorder.
you
So
can
it's
have a
very
lot of
close.
similar stuff
So there's a lot of
when you,
auditorial hallucinations, visual
right,
hallucinations. And she's
right,
goes. It's very much situated on a lot of manic episodes, like a bipolar,
yeah,
where she gets manic and hallucinates, and yeah,
right,
and
yeah.
so like yeah, you could definitely see that where what
And it's
exorcism
episodic.
really is,
So when it
especially
goes
those people
away, when
that
it goes
suffer from
into
these
remission,
mental
they think that shit
illnesses.
has worked.
Hmm?
It's episodic. So when it like goes into remission, they think that shit has worked.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, when you know someone with those sort of disorders and stuff like that, you can totally see where they would just come in
Yeah,
to exploit that
yeah.
to an
And
extent.
that's one of
So
the reasons that all the talk about demons lately in any kind of mainstream anywhere, like the idea that anybody takes demons seriously is so frightening to me. Like, no, 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 please, can we not? Can we not? Like,
yeah, right.
so thank you so much for doing all this reading. This week's was really, really, really riveting. I did a page and a half of this. Seriously,
Oh
it's great.
wow.
Yeah,
Good, good, good. Yeah, see, when you get to this point where we talk about all these the witch burnings, like in that context, when it shows a lot of the pictures, like from the different propaganda systems within,
yeah.
I think it's really interesting.
And these
Like,
days, it's hard to escape the propaganda system.
right?
Back then it was like, oh, wood carvings. Oh no, newspapers. Oh,
Yeah. I just
posters. Oh no,
but I
like
just find it also interesting how like people like Thomas Hobbes, Francis Bacon, who are known to be
yes,
intellectuals of the new scientific method, knew about this
didn't
being
speak
bullshit
up.
and talking about how you still needed to do it. Like
Yeah, and
it's
they're
so
like, it's
damning
fake, but
and necessary.
yeah. I thought that was a
Yeah.
really good point too, and that the witch hunts ended when power had been consolidated, not because of spreading
Yeah.
materialism.
Exactly.
I thought that's just
Chef's kiss. I'm like, yep. And where is this? Okay, there's something I wanted to show you about the mentality of some men
damn
and how
demons.
they view reproduction and the wish of their control over it. There's this photo of that I had. Where is it?
Well, your guest has the loveliest nails. I know, right? But so yeah,
Oh,
as
thanks.
far as fighting demons on the television, so supernatural, like that's the kind of thing that irks me. I mean, not like I want to be all, let's censor media
This
or
is
anything, but like, why are we depicting like demons in any kind of serious storytelling manner?
unless it's cat people. But I mean,
Yeah.
whatever.
Those aren't demons. Those are cat people. No, I mean
Well, that's what they
like,
called
like,
demons. Is what they said they
like,
were. But like,
why?
see, do you notice this photo? Look at this. Do you see something on his belly?
He is sideways, but is a
Oh,
baby?
sorry.
Is he the
Yep.
little person? It looks like
Yeah, it's a man pregnant.
oh, weird.
Yeah. The alchemist's desire to appropriate the function of
Oh, yeah.
maternity is well reflected in his picture of Hermes Trismegistus,
Trismegistus.
alchemy's mythical founder, holding a fetus in his womb and suggesting the insemination role of the male. Like,
There. I have my eye on them as well. Hermeticists.
yeah,
I have my eye on them as well. I'm gonna
but
do a whole.
they just want control. Like they really
Mhm,
just do.
yeah.
They just want to
Well,
be able
that
to be the ones in
specifically.
control of reproduction, and they're not, and it pisses them off.
Yeah, right. And as soon, that's when the world will really heal. Is well, one of the things that needs to happen for the world to really heal is for men to come to terms collectively with their womb envy.
Right.
You know, and the fact that they're not the great
Right.
leaders that they
Scott.
think they
Sorry, I'm
are.
just reading Scott's comment here.
Man wanting to get pregnant. If a man ever tried, he'd be very dead. Men can't
Well,
handle those
yeah.
kinds of stresses at
Even
all. Right.
someone, even a female who's been pregnant, gives blood to who's ever been pregnant before to a guy. He's likely he can die. Like
That's
it can
true.
kill
Oh my
him.
god. That's true. What a wild thing that is.
Like, let alone carrying a fucking womb that you probably extracted from like a woman who's been indoctrinated into transgenderism to donating it, and then trying to implant it in just to have the ability and control and be sexually turned on by it. Like that's just oh my god.
Well, I'm like
Where are we from in
failing to
society today?
appreciate failing to appreciate the actual outcome of any of that, which is a whole separate person over whom you do not have control.
Right? Like it's just
Uh
nuts to me. It's just so nuts. It's like you really need to deal with it. Like you need to deal with your shit. Learn to cope,
yeah.
guys. Learn to cope.
Right. And collectively, I feel like their shit is killing us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even mentioning fucking the shit that's going down today. Like, oh, it's so scary.
Yeah, right. You're right. Again, speaking collectively, speaking generally, and if anybody watching doesn't feel responsible for that and you feel like you've done your due diligence there, then good for you. I'm not going to argue with you on that. And the more that do, the better. You know,
Yeah.
I hate the doom and gloom where it's like men are bad. It's like,
Yeah, no.
no,
I'm just saying
that's not
even
what
the
I'm
world
saying.
right now.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. Patriarchy is bad. I will say that.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of men who I think way too closely identify personally with that. That would hear
Yeah.
me as saying men are bad.
Well,
That's not what I'm
exactly.
saying.
That's another thing too. It's not like at least for me and my type of politics is and belief system is not that men are also all inherently just naturally bad. That's also a
Yeah.
form of biological determinism. I think it's
Yeah.
propagated. I think it's
Well,
just
and it's
it can be counteracted with just history knowledge and just a broader fucking historical mindset and just looking at it with like stepping out of your position for a sec and and looking at things at a more historical basis and actually like looking into what people are saying, like say women, like if you're talking about historical meaning such as like the witch
right.
trials, like it'll give you a better perspective and you could change that mindset easy. You just have to
Yeah.
want to.
Right. And
And
it's
you
the
want and
instilling the
just have to
wants.
get that information to you or like find it, that information.
Well, this is
So
why I hate that, motherhood has become so frowned upon in feminist circles because it is a powerful tool for the cause. Hello.
mhm.
If half of your children are going to be male, well, then you could, make a decent swath in, the
Yeah.
future generations' feelings on these ideas. Like you get it right in on the at the beginning of some dude's mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How is that not something that could be used powerfully for? I mean, and evil people indoctrinate children all the time. You
Yep.
know, why is that a tool that shouldn't be used for good? I don't.
My only thing when it comes to like with the whole becoming mothers is righthood right now
Hmm.
is that I myself, because I'm a mother, I
Hmm.
feel guilty because of the world today. I'm like, oh, my poor baby.
Yeah, no, same, same, same. I'm speaking more excuse me. I'm speaking more generally philosophically. Again, once again,
Yeah,
I know that materially, presently, practically, things are
bad.
bad. Yes,
Yeah, to say the least.
but I also feel that
Yeah,
a lot
see,
of that is
Scott,
due to
you're a real one. Sorry. Men
and
choose
choose
to
to
behave
behave
badly.
badly.
That's
Right?
right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's what we're saying.
Sorry, what were you saying before I cut you off?
Oh gosh.
Sorry.
Sorry. Um, shoot. I don't know. Um,
Okay, well that's fine. It'll come back if it was
we'll get back
important.
there. Yeah, we'll get back there. Um.
Yeah, oh, the future of the world.
Oh, yeah, and just I philosophically, I feel that a big part of the reason that the state of motherhood is as it is because it has been degraded and denigrated and looked down upon and made unimportant and made into a
Yep.
chore and made into,
Made it
you
into a
know,
service
yeah,
instead of a job,
yeah,
labor. Like that physically takes a
a
physical
service
toll.
instead of a job. I like that.
Yeah.
Instead
It's
of a
seen as a free
position.
service. It's seen as a free service that we do
Hmm.
so naturally, or that we,
Right.
and then which makes want to associate it with that because they're getting exploited for it.
Right. Right. And it does make sense. And but okay, I guess it's so the idea of being pushed
But that
out
doesn't make
of
it inherently bad.
right, and it's not as if you can decouple the idea of reproductive labor from being female,
Yeah.
which I feel like feminism has tried to do,
Yeah.
which has crippled it. Like, it's made it shallow,
Which is
because
a
it
shame
can't.
because like Sylvia Federici and Maria Mies actually started, and a few others, and started an organization like back in the 70s called um uh what was it, like housework or something, like what, like women for housework or housework for wages or something like that, where
Oh
they
yeah,
really,
wages for housework. Yeah.
that's it, thank you, yeah, where they really pushed back on like the exploitation of mothers, and then the protection and the need for, to see it as like something more like as a job that is like, instead of just saying, well, it's service, which
Right.
is
No,
what
it's.
they what is the mentality is that it's supposed to be a natural service,
Mhm.
right? And so, but that you don't hear anybody talk about that anymore. The wages for housework,
No, that's
we
true.
find.
Like I say, motherhood has just been ignored by feminism, and that was really part of a big part of supposed to be, the message of my channel was that that's stupid.
That's stupid.
It is, and radical feminists do not want to hear about it
A lot of it, yeah, a lot of them don't,
because
because
they find me
they see it as, I guess, kowtowing, or like um to men,
colluding with
or
the
like,
enemy. Oh my god!
yeah, colluding with the enemy.
Right, like find me the part in radical feminism that says you have to be a lesbian.
Well,
Find me the part in radical, like find me the part in lesbianism that's political. Like it's not what you can just like
well, it
women.
is
I don't
political in a
understand.
way. It
No,
is
okay, but like
socio-political in a way. But
it has to
I
be,
know
but
what you
not
mean.
inherently. Like not in. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That makes me
There is a
these
difference between radical feminism and separatists.
true. But
That
like no,
separatists are the
I've
one
ran
that
in.
believe that.
There's a big
Hmm?
strain in radical feminism that you're just supposed to be a lesbian. And I'm just like, what? Or if you're a lesbian,
That
you're just
yeah,
supposed to
the
be a
political
radical feminist. I'm
lesbianism
like,
thing,
what?
and even lesbians don't like that. Even lesbians critique
Right.
that because they like it's a sexual orientation. If you're not sexually oriented toward women, you can't choose. You don't just
That's what I'm
choose to
saying.
and force yourself to.
I'm still doing the thing, honey. Sorry. Yeah, no, yeah, that's and it just yeah, I'm not a lesbian, and it offended me on their behalf. I'm like, wait, so you're making their sexual orientation into a political one, is what that is. I don't know. Everything okay? Okay.
But then you have the opposite side where then you have people who don't necessarily call themselves radical feminists, but are in the sort of GC movement, who are very
Mhm.
staunch, like traditionalists. So it's kind
Mhm.
of a hard line
It's
to,
a weird grouping.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it's like two extremes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and
yeah,
cut it
it's
out. Sorry.
it's okay. Just about every lesbian woman I've known had no desire at all to be a radical feminist. There you go.
Yeah, I can't imagine why. I'm
Sorry.
not bitter at all. I'm not bitter at all. I don't know. That weird fragmented community, like I don't know. It's been
Well,
difficult
like
to get
Sylvia
the
Federici
channels
said
going.
before, there's like she's even said in the beginning, I don't know if you remember this, but she said she had issues with the construction of what radical feminism believed in and where it's solely focused on culture, and then
Mm,
all socialist or communist feminists or whatever that solely did economic, right? She said that they're both missing because like they both are so focused on one aspect without analyzing both
mhm.
the culture and economic positions,
Well, the last
how you need
decade
to
sure has been
incorporate both, right? So that's the
right.
way I feel. That needs to be more incorporated both. So
I'll agree with that. The last decade sure has been an economic adventure for all of us, hasn't it? Quite an education, hey?
yeah, but my phone's about to die.
Yeah, mine
So
too. That's why I had to come in the house. So, oops, the cat is asking me to feed her lunch. Oh, and Scott's cat wants lunch. So,
oh jeez. Scott, you could be an honorary cat person.
yeah,
Like seriously, I love the cat people like roasting limbs. The
yeah.
fire, the propaganda picture, that's the best. One last time before you leave, I just gotta look at that.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that one of these days I would love to put on a sticker, make
Right?
posters
I
out
want this as
of.
a sticker. I want this as my go-to.
It's
Make a little pamphlet for it,
11:43.
start
Yeah,
like handing it out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Where is it? Oh, here it is. Cat people. Cannibal cat people. Those darn women in the
witches,
Caribbean. The witchy cannibal Caribbean women. They eat
cat women.
flesh. Cat women.
Do those look like women to you? They don't even look like women to me.
Yeah, no, see, you got they're with the slaves, right? So you got the women with the child and
Oh,
then hanging out with the cat people.
oh, okay.
Here's another
I don't.
woman.
Okay, the cat people are the demons. Then I don't. I don't.
Yeah, supposedly. It's a 16th
Okay.
century representation of Caribbean Indians as devils from Tobias George Smollett. Um, a
Oh. So those are the Indians.
Pendium of authentic and entertaining voyages digested in a chronological series from Tobias George Smollett in 1766. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That is so bad. Wow. So
I
those are the
am
Indians.
cat people.
Those are the
We, a society of
Caribbeans.
cat people.
Right.
Yep.
I know I'm kind of disappointed the Caribbean isn't actually full of cat people.
Well, the
But
funny thing is, remember that one dude that was that started spreading the idea that the cat, like the people were eating cats from Haiti.
oh,
So,
that's right.
well, that and then he was saying that in Haiti they're like demon worshippers that turn into cats at night.
Oh
So I'm like, oh
my.
my god, he's talking about the cat people.
The rumors are still alive, huh? My guest is totally
I
super
know.
awesome. I know, right? Scott says you're totally super awesome, by the way. I agree.
Oh, thanks.
She's been doing this for a few weeks
I try.
now because I had to take a break.
Yeah.
You haven't been around for a while, Scott. It's nice to see you. I had to take a break back at the beginning of the year because, well, you know how life is.
Yeah.
And she's been
But
helping me
seriously, my
keep the
phone's gonna
channel
die soon,
alive.
so and I'm gonna just all of a sudden cut out, so I better go.
Okay. So
Yeah.
2 weeks,
Okay. Bye
I'll
everyone.
email
Bye
you.
Scott.
Bye. See you next
And
time,
yeah,
hon.
email me. We'll talk about what we're gonna do next. And I still got some stuff to speak. Like there's still some of the book left, so
Mhm.
we'll do
Okay,
this
great.
not next week, but next week after.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
2 weeks.
All
See
right.
you then. Bye.
Bye.
And since you're still here with me, Scott, I will hang out for a second and say goodbye. I've been busy swimming in the Sound for a year. No hard feelings, man. It's nice seeing you again. I do have to go though because we're not actually, as you can hear, in school yet around here. So I got to go do mom stuff pretty urgently. Actually, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna have to get off here right around this time to go pick you up from school, little man.
I'm not little.
You're the littlest man around here.
No.
Yeah. It's been nice seeing you, Scott. I'm gonna go though.
Who's Scott?
So the guy in the end, Bell, if you're still there, see you next time, guys. 2 weeks. Watch this space.
I want to.